Yeah, hi, good morning. Kelvin MacKenzie. Now, we have somebody a damn sight more interesting than me sitting to my left. Liz Truss has popped in. Liz, full of the energy, tipping England correctly to win tonight. I certainly hope that's true, since I had a quick look at Wikipedia before I came on. And after the Second World War, Argentina took on between 5,000 and 12,000 senior Nazis made their home. They gave them shelter there, including Eichmann, as you probably will remember, and Mengele. So if you had 12,000 people in a small country like the Argentine, I wonder what the bloodline looks like in the Argentine, and therefore could it have trickled down into the 11 players turning out for that country today? Remember, so Argentina took on 12,000, whereas we actually fought the Nazis and gave succor and protection to the very Jews that the Argentinians, presumably by taking on so many, had no time for. So when you analyse the two nations, don't look at what they said, look at how they acted. So come on, England. Anyway, Liz, after that little rather brief xenophobic outburst, one of which I believe, and the other thing I should say, I looked up an old Private Eye headline, which is one I've always enjoyed. Remember, Private Eye is a satire, right? It's not really mainstream media, but the headline I most liked was "Kill an Argy, Win a Metro," which was in line with most of what the Sun Speak was of its time. Anyway, look, Liz is here. Morning, Liz.
Morning, Kelvin.
So, MP, Minister, Prime Minister, and today, enormously active. Is it a joy to be outside Parliament, or is it actually a freedom for you?
It's definitely a freedom. Yeah. It's definitely a freedom. And, you know, when you're in Parliament, everything is scrutinised in such a constant way. And there's huge pressure on MPs. We can see what's happening at the moment, even things like security pressure. And it's good to be free to speak out, to do things. But it's good to have been in Parliament as well, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I also think Parliament has just become diminished. It doesn't have the power it used to have. So much power has been handed over to the unelected bureaucrats and the judges that it's become much more of a talking shop than it ever was. So would I want to be in Parliament as it is now? No.
So what about the other aspect, the corrupting aspect, not in the sense of financial, since I believe...
Well, we know you like money, Kelvin. That's what I've learned already this morning.
I actually, I'm not particularly driven by money, but the funny aspect of it is I believe it's a clean shop. I'm not saying that corruption doesn't exist among the 650 MPs, but the way it can corrupt you as a person, since whatever anybody says, you're actually looking at it as though they are looking for preferment, they're acting for somebody, there's something. Does that eventually make you too cynical to actually be optimistic about the future?
Well, I'm just an optimist, and I don't do cynicism.
Right.
But I think the problem is that SW1 has become a blob of a particularly received set of views. So whether it's, net zeroism or transgender ideology, it's the pressure from the NGOs, the pressure from the bureaucracy that MPs feel. And the Americans have this phrase, the swamp. And it is a bit like being in the swamp because you only hear one type of views. I often found that I would go to Norfolk and I'd hear just complete diametric opposite of what I'd been hearing in Westminster. So I think Westminster can infect people.
Okay,
and then it gives them an alternative, it's a bubble, it gives them an alternative sense of reality.
But let me put it another way. Why can't you actually recognise, and shouldn't that be the joy and actually be your talent, to recognise the difference between these people coming to the NGOs and the like? They're pressing their suit, right? but you actually have your beliefs and you have your colleagues who surround you, right? They have their beliefs. Isn't it easy to say, yes, it's a good point, but one that I don't accept?
The point is, though, that most MPs, certainly what I observed in the Conservative Party, were infected by that ideological leaning.
That is an issue.
They're more left-wing
Yeah.
than their constituents.
Yeah.
They're more left-wing than the general British public.
Correct.
And that is what the media is repeating. Papers like the Times or the Financial Times takes that worldview as well. So to go against it is difficult. And it's psychologically difficult when you're meant to be part of a tribe to stand out. So I think MPs feel this immense pressure to move towards the progressive left. I think that's what we've seen over the last 30 years. And it does take somebody, it frankly takes disagreeable people who don't care if they're liked or not.
Right, well,
and
I'm pleased
politicians,
to announce that I have now become the Prime Minister of this great nation. Yeah, go on.
It does take disagreeable people, and a lot of people who go into politics want to be liked. That is the reality of the situation.
In your experience, and how long were you in big time politics, Parliament? How long were you in Parliament?
So I was there since 2010 till 2024.
Right, that's a good. So in that 14 years, was that your main take? So that when you saw a colleague come in, you knew that they had their main talent base was I want to be liked. That was their main personality.
I'm not saying that's true of everybody. Right. I'm just saying there is a strong tendency of that. And of course, they want to get elected. So they want to please their constituents. They want to get good coverage in the newspapers. That you have to be very ideologically rigid not to be affected by that. And of course, some things, and I fully admit to doing this, I wanted to get things done. So I had to compromise on some of the things I believed in order to get other things done. And that's
to get colleagues over the line.
Yeah, exactly. That's life as a government minister. If you want to get things done, you have to compromise, you have to haggle, etc., etc. But what I'm saying is that people I know that went in as ideological conservatives left as net zero fanatics because that was the prevailing way the wind was blowing. They thought, how am I going to get a job after I leave Parliament?
Is that a thought process?
God, yes. God, yes. Of course it is.
Well, that was obviously not your thought process, was it?
No.
Because no, but seriously.
Maybe it ought to have been, but it wasn't.
Okay, well, that's a very good point. We all have regrets, right? So if you came in as Prime Minister today, and my God, we need a Conservative Prime Minister. We certainly need somebody at the right anyway. And you kind of learned from the way the world is, right? Would you have come in softly, softly, catchy monkey?
No,
or would you still have come in and gone, boom?
No, the only way to win is shock and awe. No. And this is what Donald Trump showed with his first 100 days. I mean, what needs to happen next time, and I think the next time is going to be 2029, is that there needs to be a bigger movement behind any potential prime minister. And this is what we want to do with CPAC, is to create...
What is CPAC, by the way?
CPAC is taking place this...
No, but what is it? I mean, it's an entity.
It's a political conference that brings together people, in this case, in the Conservative Party, the Reform Party, but also people that aren't involved in politics, say the Free Speech Union are there. It's people who care about the fact that our country is being run by an unelected blob and they want to do something about it. And what I'm saying is you need that bigger movement in order to take on the very powerful blob that is in charge. And that was my finding as Prime Minister. It's not enough just to be elected as Prime Minister and have the right ideas. If there's nobody behind you, if there's not big enough movement, you will just be drowned out by the media, the swamp, etc.
When you say the media, for instance,
I'm talking about you, Kelvin.
I wish to God that somebody would buy the FT, right, and actually turn it into what it's supposed to be, which is the Bible for business, rather than trying to be some quasi kind of lefty kind of political nonsense. God knows how this has happened, by the way. God knows. I'd love to buy it, but and I'm hoping that UK Live becomes successful enough that my 6% equity holding turns into a triumph that I could buy. But why take any notice of of what our noise is off.
Because if you look at the way Britain works, the way it works at the moment, there is an elite, largely who live in London and the home counties. They have a particular worldview.
I'm in favour of that elite.
Yeah, but the elite has been taken over by the progressive left.
Right.
You know, if you want to be in fashionable circles these days, you can't believe in, you know, you're not going to be a supporter of Kemi Badenoch or Nigel Farage. You are going to be a lefty. Seriously? That's the reality, yes.
When you talk about fashionable circles, I don't, as you might expect.
You don't move in them.
I don't move in.
Know, but
I've been ejected by them, but
I think
never did.
The Times newspaper, which has basically always been the establishment newspaper in Britain, is a sign of this, that the Times used to be conservative with a small c. Mm-hmm. It is now progressive. It is. Its editorials
aren't. Its comment definitely.
Its whole toners. The stories it reports on. You know, it's not. What I'm saying is that the centre of gravity of the British elite is progressive, and it has been for the last 40 years. Essentially, you know, when did it change? When did it change? Probably in the 1990s, but certainly since Blair's been in power, that has been the centre of gravity. And that's what I'm saying. That's what we need to fight, because unless you're shifting the mood music in the Overton window, you're not going to win. So,
well, what is the Overton window, and when will it be shut? I mean, I'm always hearing about the Overton window.
Well, the
what the hell is it?
The Overton window is what is acceptable to believe. And you know, if you're at the gates of a posh London school and you're talking to other parents, what are the things that are acceptable to say and not acceptable to say? Sure. Is it acceptable to say we need to close Britain's borders and we need to deport all the illegal immigrants, or will you not be invited to the next dinner party?
But does it matter about whether you get invited?
That's what people care about.
Seriously?
Yeah, they do.
But, I mean, imagine in your job.
I'm giving you my observations about how Britain works at the moment.
Seriously.
And who is setting the agenda. And that needs to change in order for the country to change.
Okay.
We have an unelected elite.
How will you change? Look, I think it's a fantastic idea. How on earth are you going to change that?
Well, part of what CPAC is about, which is this Thursday and Friday, people can still get their tickets online.
How much are they?
They are £100 for 3 days of conference.
Oh, right. And 1 day of conference?
Well, people have to come for 3 days. Well, they can come for a few days.
Okay, all right, okay.
There's a special offer, by the way, with the Mike Graham show of £75, which people can take for.
Is there many likely to turn up for this? Is it hundreds or thousands?
We've got hundreds of people coming.
Okay.
We've got lots of media coming. We've got lots of people coming from around the world, including Australia, the US, because this is an issue everybody's facing. You know, the progressive left has taken over the Western world. Okay. I mean, there are counter examples to that, like Donald Trump, but the left has taken over.
I saw a shocking poll the other day.
You know that's true as well, Kelvin.
Right. What I do know is round my way, right, I live on a smallish estate in Weybridge.
Hey, well, that's the heart of the liberal elite. This is your neighbours we're talking about here.
Well, no, my neighbours are all legging it abroad. It is an astonishing happening that is just... But I saw a polling the other day, which I found really disturbing. You know, that MMRP or whatever it's called, that deep dive, which way you're going to go. The way that the MPs look as though they're being carved out for the next election, we will have a Green Lib Dem Labour alliance, which actually will be even further left.
Yes.
That's the 29 vote, will be further left than we are now.
This is what I'm saying about the British elite has moved to the left. This is what's happening across the home counties. Look at Oxfordshire.
Look at Surrey. Look at Surrey in the council election.
Whereas places like Lancashire are moving to the right.
Yeah.
So you've got an elite which is out of touch, believes in this progressive values, that has basically been in control of the country for 40 years. And then you've got the rest of the population who are, what the hell is happening to our country? What the hell is happening?
Liz, you keep on saying 40 years. We had that Creek Cameron come in, and Osborne, by the way, who praised Rachel Reeves ahead of the 24 election, right? and then went on to trouser millions out of the bloody city, leaving us firmly in the financial shit. And nobody ever says anything about that. So you're including the Cameron/Osborne years. Correct. Well,
I'm including the whole lot.
Right. Well done. Do you know,
Very
that's
good.
the first time I've ever heard a mainstream, big-time politician from the Tory party accept that one of the big disasters of our country turned out to be Cameron, right? Who thought that the way to the people's hearts was by explaining to them that they should have more money from the middle classes in order to fund the skin. It's absolutely a disgraceful moment of politics, and actually, I think ruined the Tory party. So the Tory party now, right? So
I think the Tory party was ruined when Mrs. Thatcher was deposed.
Was deposed, yes.
Yeah, I think 1990 is where it started to go wrong.
Yes, well, she should have thrown out Francis Pym ahead of 83, is my view. But that's how old I am. Anyway, so, okay, I look to you, right? You're a big advocate now of change within the right. Is there any moment, any possibility, it doesn't look like it to me, of a unite the right? Is that just a waste, just a pipe dream?
What we're saying at CPAC is this is about galvanising the right. Right. Because there are lots of people who say they're on the right who aren't.
Oh, that is true.
And there's no point in uniting the people that we used to have in the Tory party because a lot of them are frankly not conservatives.
Yeah, correct.
So
including Ben Spencer, the MP for bloody Elmbridge and
This is about
Runnymede.
uniting the people who believe in liberty and who believe in sovereignty. So believe in free speech, patriotism, the family. These are the people we need to unite. But people who advocate for transgender ideology, open borders, net zero, the ECHR, they're not right-wing.
But
the people of Weybridge who are voting for the Liberal Democrats are not right-wing, they're the progressive left.
But I have a good mate of mine, tennis mate of mine, right? Swanky bloody tennis club. Got a place in in France for the skiing. He's got a big house in the Weybridge area, of which there are loads of big houses like that. And he says he couldn't vote. He could never vote for a reform type character, and it's because of this, that, and the other. There's lots of people who have individual reasons now for being unable to understand what the future looks like and the danger to people who want to get on in their lives. I mean, there is a barrier.
I agree. I think a lot of people don't realise what serious trouble this country is in. It's in very serious trouble.
And we look to 29. And what happens?
Well, I hope the right win in 29, but there needs to be a movement behind the right. It can't just be one person. A lot of people in Britain have to wake up, understand what's gone wrong with our country, and step up.
Okay,
and that includes independent media, as well as a movement that backs the policies, because that's what we didn't have in 2022. I went out and tried to do the right thing, and people who supported me did not come out. They just let the left win.
I do agree with you. Even I was affected by the way that the policies were being reported effectively.
Correct.
And therefore, in turn, the markets then said, oh, is this
but also,
right?
the Bank of England were busy sabotaging it. So you had the most powerful part of the British government sabotaging the policies. You can't win in that circumstance. So what I now know is in order to make change, you have to change the Bank of England. You've got to repeal what Blair did to it. You've got to replace the governor. This is the type of thing that has to happen in order to succeed. And that's what I want people to understand who are aspiring to be Prime Minister in 2029.
Okay, you look at the possibilities of who will be Prime Minister as things stand. And we have Nigel Farage. I personally have said 1,000 times, I am not in favour of leaders of major political parties representing 25% of the nation, according to polling, trousering 5 million quid, and then announcing that it was either hacked, therefore we've never announced it, this, that, and the other. I do not approve of that, right? And I can't imagine that any voter would approve of it. there will be a percentage of reformers who will say, right. So you've got him, you've got Kemi Badenoch, who appears to be, going through a purple patch at the moment. Which one of those two is likely to be Prime Minister in your view?
I think 2029 is a long way away.
Yeah,
I think it's.
But if it was today,
what I know, Kelvin, is that the broader ideas and beliefs of the movement is the most important thing. And
Is
this
it?
conference,
Is it?
this CPAC, Nigel Farage is speaking at CPAC.
Good.
We've also got Andrew Griffiths from the Conservatives.
Good.
So we've
Andrew
got
Griffiths, a proper
Conservatives.
man.
We've got Conservatives and Reform.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I didn't realise that. Yeah, sorry.
So.
Oh, well, that's good. And Kemi didn't turn up because she didn't consider this was her crowd, or
I don't know.
It's a Friday.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, look.
But we've got
Liz,
Andrew speaking, which is great.
Liz,
So.
a good discussion, by the way.
Thank you. Good to be
very
on.
good discussion.
Good to be on,
Kelvin. If you could just arrange to have it collectively organised that Ben Spencer is thrown out as the Conservative MP for Elmbridge and Runnymede, that would be helpful because he represents the very crowd you're talking about. But what concerns me is in Surrey, they were basically throwing reform at the council election. They were throwing reform councillors out, not in. You know, the whole thing, the whole of Surrey basically went Lib Dem. Have they looked at the price of their houses, right?
But these are elite beliefs. They're rich enough not to care.
What do you mean? They're saying tax rises,
The same thing.
house prices
You've seen the
reduced.
the same thing is happening in Los Angeles, New York, which is people are rich people, celebrities are supporting leftist Democrats. Same thing.
There's a lot of thick people out there, but I take it that you're not one of them. I was not referring to you, Liz. I was referring to the viewers. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Liz.
Good to be on the show.
We've got a guy coming on now. Actually, who's a Reform councillor in Portsmouth. Council have taken down the George's flags hanging up in council flats. What on earth? And then they claim it's some kind of fire safety issue. Absolute bollocks. Anyway. I'm sorry about that. The B word is, I'm afraid I'm in trouble again. That's another 8p off my remuneration. So coming up in a second, I'll tell you what, shall we go to the news so I can say a fun for a world to Liz? Thanks.
Edward the News Hughes here with your Wednesday bulletin. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation into the targeted killing of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old suspect remains in custody as officers probe possible links to other attacks, heightening security concerns for politicians, including Nigel Farage, who reports frequent threats. In politics, Andy Burnham is gaining momentum amid Labour tensions, with reports of cabinet manoeuvring as Keir Starmer's position faces scrutiny. MPs have approved the Hillsborough Law, hailed as a major step for justice. On the sports front, Jude Bellingham's double helped England advance in the World Cup. Elsewhere, plans for a midnight social media curfew for 16 and 17-year-olds are under discussion, while pension reforms could see millions working longer. Please remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers.
Yeah, hi. Look, I mean, this is beyond bizarre. Beyond bizarre. I wonder whether we could show that image of number 10. No, I tell you what, let's show the image of a council block in Portsmouth and what is literally going on, I presume, yesterday, was it? Somebody must have videoed it. Have you got it there?
Yeah,
Right, so that video, right, no, so this is a video of number 10, right, number 10 today, which actually I wholly approve of. Who could not want to embrace the flag on a big football day? How is that possible? How is that possible? The only thing that basically unites any of us, of any, whatever, the left to the right, well, actually forget about the left, from the centre to the right, they're all in favour of the flag. It does represent something. I know we've had 10 million extra people come into our country over the last few years who perhaps they view their flag as Pakistan or somewhere else. But the majority in our country still represent the flag. So number 10 even embraces it, not least of all because it's his last freebie. The Prime Minister is going to nip over for the World Cup final if we get there. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that. But in Portsmouth, it's different. In Portsmouth, they are actually, as that video showed, they are actually taking down those flags which are hanging over the balcony. Look fantastic, by the way, from the other side, right? They're actually removing them, claiming it's a fire and safety threat. Have they looked at their council block? These council blocks are 100 years old. The whole damn lot should have been pulled down. If you believe in fire safety, pull down the block. Don't claim the flags are going to suddenly self-ignite and destroy the block. It's an absolute scandal. Anyway, one man the guy who took the video, I think, of these flags being taken down by Labour-controlled, oh yes, our old chums at Labour. Yeah, there they go, Labour-controlled Portsmouth Council. Anyway, I'm pleased and proud to welcome Councillor George Madgwick. How do I pronounce it?
Madgwick, that's the one.
Madgwick, yeah. Okay, got that right. Well, thank you very much for doing the video, first of all, and alerting to the nation to this absolute disgrace, really. It's beyond me. So, how dominant are Labour within Portsmouth, for instance, so that our viewers can understand what the politics look like in their town?
First of all, just to correct you on that one, it's a Liberal Democrat-run council.
Oh, right, it's even worse, sorry.
I know, yeah. Labour are very weak here. They've only got 4 councillors. We decimated them in the recent May elections. But yeah, it's a Liberal-run council, has been for a number of years now. And we are what you like to call a council of sanctuary and a city of sanctuary, which has also caused a few problems over the last few years with a few. We were very popular for having the migrant hotel here. So we were newsworthy last year. But this is also the same council, may I add, that at Christmas was newsworthy because they got all residents to remove Christmas wreaths off of their doors due to fire and safety concerns. So we've seen this before in this area. Yeah, we've seen this before in this area. And now the excuse of removing flags is fire concerns. But just to put this into perspective, not only have you showed the photo there of number 10, which absolutely makes the Portsmouth decision hypocritical, but this flag was hung over a steel pole surrounded by a concrete building. These are not 14, 15-story tower blocks. These are 3-story concrete purpose-built buildings. There is no fire risk or fire concern in any capacity, and it's just a killjoy.
So, no, I'm being serious. Why did they do this? I mean, this is a moment of joy for the nation, regardless of what the result is. It's something that everybody talks about. It's a unification, both the flag but the evening itself. Everybody is working out. I'm going around my mate's house with my family, and he's got his family. Everybody's doing something which brings them together. This is an action which is designed to divide people. And honestly, you live in a council block, it may be there's not a lot of joy in your life. I mean, I'm not trying to over-egg the pudding, but life may not be great for you. This is something that actually gives you a boost in some way. What is it about Liberal Debut?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the left-wing commentators on TV last night was saying, well, it's not private accommodation. I've got an England flag outside my house, but I've got private property. And I thought, one second, that's disgraceful, because you're essentially saying if you are disadvantaged and you're living in social housing, you can't afford to rent a private house, you're almost not entitled to fly an England flag. But I don't know why the Liberal Democrats do this in Portsmouth. As I say, we had the similar situation over the summer last year where flags were being raised, and obviously there was paintings and stuff, and they were very quick to remove those. But equally, we are a city that's got rainbow crossings everywhere, and they repaint those all the time to protect them and look after them. It's the hypocrisy in this city is disgraceful, and it's something that I have to fight along with my colleagues all the time. How
many Reform councillors are there on the council?
We've got 12 now, so we are the leaders of the opposition. In Portsmouth. We've got 12, and Liberals have got 21, I believe. So they've got the majority by 1.
When's the next vote that could change that?
We've got local government reorganisation next year, so everybody is up for election next year. So yeah, next May is the time that hopefully we can change things. But our council's amalgamating with Havant, Gosport, and Fareham to create like a new super authority, which is a whole
Yep.
different conversation in itself. But Havant is very pro-reform, Gosport is very pro-reform, and the north of Portsmouth is also very pro-reform. Fareham, as you know, is the home of Suella Braverman, so we should take over the council next May and get some really more common sense decisions brought into this council.
What do you think motivates the Lib Dems to do something which they must know is actually going to create a furore, and they're not going to look good on it? You don't have to be a special kind of commentator to say that something that Number 10 can do without a problem, and yet you can't do it in Portsmouth, is going to be the subject of ridicule. And
I
actually,
can't fathom their decision-making process on this one. I'm a little like you. You know, how do you answer that question of what goes through their mind? You know, at the end of the day, someone has sat in an office, a senior person has sat in the office and consciously decided to say, yes, remove those flags from that council estate. There's no discretion there. You know, there's fire safety concerns, but in my opinion, as you said, that's bollocks. I'll use your words, and I'll put 8p in the jar as well. But you know, it's rubbish because at the end of the day, if councils across the country are putting these up, Number 10 are putting these up, there is no reason why Portsmouth can't. And there's been a lot of decisions recently with the Liberal Democrats in Portsmouth that make you just wonder what they're doing. You know, for example, I said that we're now a council of sanctuary, which obviously opens and welcomes migrants that come across the boats to live in our city. 91% of Portsmouth people that were polled out of 4,500 respondents, they didn't want to sign up to that. They signed up to it anyway. We have twinned with Palestine recently. So Portsmouth have now twinned with Palestine. People didn't want that in the city. They did it anyway. There's been a lot of decisions made by the Liberal Democrats, which are, funnily enough, anti-democratic. And I don't know why. I don't know why.
And let me just talk about the half-wits who actually democratically run the council. Anyway, what kind of people are they? What's the leader? Do they do anything for a living, or is this part-time for them, or do they look upon this as 40 grand a year? They wouldn't make they couldn't make 40 pence a year in commercial life.
Honestly, I don't understand the leader of the council. The leader of the council is a guy called Councillor Steve Pitt, a successful businessman, used to be in the music industry and toured a lot. And up until a few years ago, I'd have said he's incredibly patriotic. I don't understand what's happened to him in recent years. He wasn't the leader of the council until recently. He became the leader, and at which point I personally feel that he aligned too close with an organisation called Stand Up to Racism, which I'm sure you've heard before. And his mindset and his motivation since aligning with those a couple of years ago has changed. And it's really disappointing because he used to invest in grassroots football. He used to support loads of local football clubs and invest in those and get floodlights and get fences. He was really a champion for culture and sport in our city. But the last couple of years, it's almost become a completely political twist, and he's become more about a virtue signaling and appeasing that left-wing vote. And it's sad to see. It really is sad to see. But he now is a full-time leader of the council. That's what he does as a living. He's also a member of the combined authority. You know, so this man is a powerful man in our city, and he's making some really questionable decisions. And as soon as you question him, he just starts shouting and talks you down, which is a real shame.
So George, the big hope for Portsmouth is the electoral change, the boundary changes which are going on, is that this guy running your council, he gets slung out along with a whole load of other people, and people just doing plainly vanilla kind of, is this common sense? Let's just do it. And all right, there may be some issues slightly, but let's just forget about it. Is that the hope for the future?
Yeah, I mean, we need to stop doing this virtue signaling and wasting money on silly things. I mean, people from councils, in my opinion, it's a really simple thing. And no matter whether you're in Portsmouth or Oxford or you're in Newcastle, wherever you're listening to this show, people want simple things from their councils. They want the bins collected, they want their roads looked after, and they want community safety. That's the three key things that people want in their area. They just want it clean, safe, tidy, and roads. That is what people want. Doing all these virtue signaling things and, as you say, more complicated complicated things is really just a distraction from what local people want their tax money spent on. And yes, the hope is absolutely that we take control of the council in May next year and we can go back to running more of a common sense approach. But that starts from the top down, and obviously that starts with the culture of the organisation as well. You know, Portsmouth City Council as a culture has kind of been led by the Liberal Democrats now, other than a few years, for 28 years. So the culture needs to change within the council as well, which I think is going to be the biggest challenge that we face.
I must say, changing the zebra crossings to pride crossings is a bit bizarre, really, because actually zebra crossings are black and white, and therefore you can have an anti-racism shout with the straightforward.
Well, you'll love this, Kelvin, because when they painted over the England crossings that were painted, now don't get me wrong, I didn't agree with the vandalism necessarily, but once they were painted, some of them were actually quite good and of a good standards. And when they painted over them, they said it was because it was a distraction to drivers. And I said, 1 second, I said, surely a rainbow flag is a distraction to drivers. You know, is the double standards, the hypocrisy is absolutely crazy. But this is the council that you may have seen in the newspaper last year that offers a leisure card to the migrants that have moved into our city, where they can get free kayak lessons, for example, and a beach hut with 40% off. You know, we really do some very strange things in this council, and it's really got to stop. It's got to change.
Yeah, well, I'm with you, George, on this. I hope you sling them out. Of all the parties I hate most are the Lib Dems, you know, who are posing as one thing and are actually quite extremist, which makes me worried about 29 in the sense that they could be a coalition with Labour and Greens, which could keep the right out, which would be, to my mind, would just about destine the UK to a disastrous, 100 years. Okay, thank you very much indeed, George. Anyway, good luck with you.
Thank you.
Keep flying the flag.
Best wishes.
Right.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi there. Now, Linda Dubley, Sky journalist and generally, I think currently a good egg, anyway, as far as I know. And unless there's something about your life.
What do you mean currently?
Well, you can never be sure, can you? There's all kinds of stuff going on in life. And right, Linda, welcome. And I'm sorry that you got out of bed late and couldn't be bothered to come into the studio. That's I find that a bit
I got
strange.
to work until midnight, Kelvin, and I get home at 1 o'clock this morning. It doesn't often happen that I have this kind of clash, but believe me, I'm at an age where I can't cope with a 19-hour day.
You are known as young Linda. I'm very in this environment, in this studio. You'd certainly be the youngest person in here by about 1,000 miles. Tell me, Linda, what on earth is aggravating you this morning?
Well, a lot of what has just been said was aggravating me. I must say that I think Liz Truss totally had her finger on the pulse there, where she said that we are not waking up to how bad the situation is in this country. Right. And that has gone on for probably more than a decade. I remember talking to someone I know in the oil industry, and he said people are just sleepwalking through this. If they lifted the lid on what is actually going on, economically speaking here, they would be utterly horrified. And so it has come to pass. And I'm afraid with the current government, I don't see that there are going to be any proper solutions coming down the pike, because they're tough. They're all tough things that we have to do. And I'm not sure we got the stomach for it.
Right. But actually, the interesting thing that we have to face is that it's not about governments, is it? It's about voters. Because
yes.
they're the only people that can change things. And when I saw the reaction of the voters in the council elections in Surrey, where effectively they turfed out reform and voted in Lib Dems,
yes.
I began to wonder whether actually you and I are massive outliers, and that there is change going on which we don't really understand, and that when people given the option of either paying more tax or getting somebody else to pay more tax, they're saying, actually, I rather like this idea. And could it be that they don't see the bigger picture, but you can't blame the voter. You have to blame actually the way that the message is being sold.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that's what I was saying, is we don't pay attention to what's coming down the pike. And when I say we, I am not talking about politicians. I'm talking about us, the voter, because we have to be prepared to do stuff to make changes. And that's becoming more and more apparent. I remember once reading a piece by a journalist you will know called Danny Finkelstein. And
Yeah.
he said, that the voter is like the customer. They're always right. Because in a sense, what he's saying is the voter is going to do what the voter is going to do. It's up to political parties to properly engage with the voter, but it's also up to the voter to start paying attention to what is actually going on. And that requires an effort. That requires not just reading and absorbing news, but working out what's underpinning all the news, what is actually going on, and starting to be real. Now, the other point that Liz Truss made, and you made it as well, and I know this very well from my old area, Richmond, where I used to live, is that you get some very wealthy, influential people who simply don't want to vote what they regard as nasty Tories. And believe me, they will never go near the Reform Party. So they automatically go to the Lib Dems. Consequently, Richmond is now totally Lib Dem. Every single councillor in the London Borough of Richmond is Lib Dem. And that's now become quite an enclave. There's a Lib Dem MP there, Sarah Olney. In the neighbouring constituency, it's Munira Wilson, she's Lib Dem. The leading peer in the area, Lord Lee of Trafford, John Lee, he's Lib Dem. And there's an insurgency going on in Surrey. And so that's how the Lib Dems got to, I think it is 72 MPs in the last election. So we don't know exactly what's going to go on with them in the next general election. What's interesting is Reform does punch above its weight. It only has half a dozen MPs, but we do forget to pay attention to the fact that the Lib Dems are a consequential party and they can get more MPs going forward, whether you like it or not. And we don't know why and how people make up their minds all the time about how they vote. They will get more MPs in the next election, I suspect.
Okay, so we have coming up, it did make me laugh, apparently the Mansion House speech yesterday of Rachel Reeves, she got a massive round of applause. Now, I presume they were clapping because they were going to see the back of her, right, rather than that they were saying, well done to you. In the Times today, it's reported that Ed Miliband is not going to be charged. Look, this is politics. You normally can't trust a damn word which is coming out of allegedly allies. A deliberate lie is being put out there, and I'm just hopeful that turns out not to be the case. But with the role of Chancellor being so important in our political system, if a Miliband character did turn up as Chancellor, I would feel as somebody who, look, I want everybody to be wealthy. I want us to have a different approach to creating wealth. I want our ministers, our leading ministers, to talk about making money, right? It's an unusual thing for this country. We have got to make money. If we don't make money, we're going to have this conversation, Liz, until one of us dies. Now, that may happen to you ahead of me, because obviously you're clearly older than me, but we have got to make wealth. We've got to make wealth a major part of the conversation, because actually, if we create the wealth, there is more money to go to somebody else. At the moment, nobody is making money.
That's right.
Actually, the richest people I know actually are plumbers and electricians, but they seem to be doing great. But so, when it comes to picking a chancellor, have you any insights into why and who and how?
Well, I mean, I do sort of bump into politicians from all parties, and I could say, until you just mentioned this to me, and I've heard it from other people this morning, that Ed Miliband was in with a shout. But I don't think that he wants to leave his current brief. So he's going to dig his heels in there, because, for sure. And that will create problems as well. But I suppose the front runner could be Wes Streeting. I mean, I think that Andy Burnham will want to reward him with something, because we know originally he had been a leadership contender. But, is that going to really work? I mean, Wes Streeting is a sensible politician, but it's going to be, as I said, really tough. It's like turning around an ocean-going tanker. This is going to be tough, and it's going to take a long time. And what we've got to do, above everything else, is put momentum back into the economy. If you don't do that, then nothing else works. And in order to do that, you have to support business and you have to support the growth of business and new businesses. Now, it's absolutely obvious that if you fiddle around with national insurance contributions and you fiddle around with the kind of costs that people have to bear, there's going to be a problem with growing businesses. And what are we going to do? We can only get tax from people who work and who have businesses. And you know that I found that conversation. It was a thread actually on WhatsApp between Pat McFadden and someone else, and he was saying, you know, he was sick of going into meetings and being asked, how can we tax these people more? Are there any other areas left untaxed? I mean, that's just no way to grow an economy. We have to work really, really hard now, and we have to support business. And my fear is, I don't think there is anyone on the front bench in the cabinet who actually understands business growth, who understands the nitty-gritty of getting up every day and working to make a margin so that you can invest, so that you can build a company, so that you can go around it, so the flywheel eventually turns and eventually you get healthy business growth. I don't think there's anyone there that understands that.
Linda, the only thing I'd say about Streeting is, as I understand it from the Times piece, he was never in the running and is not going to be Chancellor, and that they think Miliband carries too much baggage, and that Mahmood is in with the shout, or somebody out of left field who is going to basically make everybody unhappy is going to come in. But let's hope to God that...
I tell you, this is an outside thought. I've only just thought of this.
Okay.
But Torsten Bell...
No, right, it's over. Right, thanks very much. That's all we know. Old Bellend. We don't need Torsten Bellend.
No,
right.
I'm just saying.
No. I'm so, Linda, that's it. Thanks very much. It's over. We can't have that.
It's not my idea.
We can't have old bloody Bellend in there. We'll be that would just we'll all go bust. We'll go bust. Linda, thank you very much.
It's my idea. I'm just saying.
No,
I could see that happening.
No. Anyway, very good to chat with you, my love. Very funny. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Right. Yes. Well, I'm afraid we had to end that a bit sharpishly. She clearly had been on the old pickling juice last night, and so thank you very much indeed, Linda. Linda Doobly, a journalist and an advocate of Torsten Bell, which actually ended the conversation. So that's the way we're going to do it. We should have a bellometer, really, shouldn't we? That people, when they cross the line on something, we just go boom and off they go. Actually, that would be a very funny idea. I like that one. Now that is a belter, that absolute belter. Now we've got somebody coming on with brains. This doesn't happen very often, as you could have seen on most of this show. Somebody with brains. I met her in the studio the other day. Catherine McBride. I think Catherine, you're an economist, aren't you? And
yes,
you're an Australian who has lived here for 1,000 years. Is that right?
Almost 1,000, getting very close. Yeah, exactly.
Close.
Long enough to remember your career running the country, basically, which was great. Yeah, you need to get back to it.
It was difficult to do, actually, to be honest, Catherine. It was very, especially when I had a full-time job as well. We have to have the bullshitometer. So, tell me, Catherine, you study the numbers. So I think our economy, I'm just guessing, I think our economy is going to do rather better over the next year than we have done. But how close are we? If it doesn't take much for our economy to really be in considerable, possibly IMF areas of difficulty because of our. How close are we to are we teetering on the edge, or actually have we got a good bit of headroom if the wind blows the wrong way for us?
No, I think things are not looking good at all. There's a lot of problems that no one's really addressing. We've got this youth unemployment, which is continuing. We've got the welfare bill, which is continuing. We've got demographic change where people are technically of retirement age. So I know more and more people of retirement age, like you and me, who are not retiring, luckily, because they're going to find that their obligations keep going up and their sources of revenue keep going down. I was listening to your last conversation, and I sincerely hope, like you, that the bell end does not reappear. But unfortunately, he may well. He may well. We can't
Now
write him
that
off
now that
completely.
now that was very very
I
good of
was
you there,
very.
Kat.
I didn't want to get buzzed off immediately. I only just started, so I thought, well, I'll just wait till the end.
Ah,
It'll
the
be
old
like
bell
the
end. Yep.
yes. So, but without the bell end, you look at who else is around. I have heard of Shamama Mahmood is on the list, but Wes Streeting did. In fairness to him, he was one of the first people to cancel a Quango. Admittedly, apparently, they then introduced another 27 Quangos. So in the long run, it didn't probably help in total, but at least in the health department, he was willing to get rid of NHS England, or one of the several and umbrella groups above all of the different groups. So he might not be an entirely bad choice, but it is the difficulty, as you were just discussing, is there's no one in the Labour Party who really understands business. There was a report in the Sunday Times that they're going to start Help to Buy again, and yet they've put a whole lot of more costs onto housing, not just in the fact that many labourers building housing are minimum wage jobs. If you're just the sort of the dog's body, not obviously the plumbers and the electricians are getting a lot more these days, but those wages have all gone up. Even for young people who've just started, their wages have gone up. The taxes that an employer has to pay have gone up, and all of the costs of the carbon taxes have gone up. And they're claiming in January they're going to join the EU's ETS, that's the emissions trading scheme, and that's currently about 20% more expensive than the UK one. And using the December future price, that will put up the cost of all building materials by 18%.
So a friend of
And
mine,
they're going to introduce a CBAM on imported aluminium, even though we don't make aluminium in the UK. And that all of our car companies, all of our plane part companies, which is one of our biggest exports, the plane engines, plane wings, seating in planes, they're all made in the UK, but they're made with imported aluminium, imported steel, imported wires. It's kind of incredible that the government doesn't seem to know that, and they're going to put all of these extra taxes on. And so, yeah, I think that we're closer than we'd like to imagine, just through the extra taxes that the government has put onto business. And it didn't start with the Labor Party. This has been going on for a long time.
yeah, I agree.
Rachel Reeves did make it all a little bit worse.
If you look at Rachel Reeves, right, has she been a disaster, a total disaster, or is there an element that says actually the real disaster for our country was conservatism, and that there was a legitimate argument that actually 14 years of conservatism had been a disaster for the country generally, that they had set the path, which eventually Labour said, oh, that's the way forward, is it? Higher taxes, less productivity, and we're now going to accelerate that.
Yeah, but it might not even have started there. There's a few things that started under Gordon Brown that David Cameron decided to continue.
Yeah.
Ed Miliband was there at the time, so he was he had a different title, but it was basically the energy minister or the environment minister. Now he's the net zero energy minister, Des Nez, and so they've all come full circle. They all seem to be signed up to a United Nations 2030 agenda, where we'll all hold hands and sing Kumbaya, except for China and Russia and Iran and North Korea and all the people that, don't like us. And it's a sort of insane thing that the empathetic conservatives who are now Liberal Democrats, who are now upset that Kemi Badenoch might finally take the whip away from them. And I must say, I'm cheering her on with that endeavour.
Correct.
So I am not sure that she'll get away with it because they're quite powerful. They're very powerful in the Conservative Party movement, which has nothing to do with being a conservative with a small c. These are all, they're flag-waving conservatives who don't understand anything about the economy or conservation of the economy. They're not interested in conserving the British way of life. I think a lot of them are quite happy to give the Chagos away, pay money for someone to take the Chagos. I see today there's a report that other islands in the Caribbean might be sort of given away, or I mean, it's never ending. You sit there going, what is wrong with these people? Why do they hate Britain so much? Why do they want to be a member of some kind of international quackocracy, if that's a word?
Yeah, good word.
That they all think they'll be the ruler. If we have a world government, they'll be in it. And you want to say, no, mate. One thing I can tell you, if there's ever a world government, you won't be in it.
You won't be
and
in it.
And it'll take about 2 seconds before the Chinese arrive and take over anyhow. So even the ones who might think they'll be in it for a few minutes will eventually get, done with. It's a kind of a weird thing, but you're right. It was the Conservative rule started this or kept it going. But anyway.
Can I ask you this, Catherine? Right, you have, okay, we only have 1 minute, so you have you can do two things, right? You walk in a surprise announcement, Catherine McBride's made Chancellor. You can do two things which you're going to do within 20 minutes of sitting down at number 11. What would they be?
The first thing is I would make all ministers responsible for hiring and firing in the department so that when they start to do something, it actually happens. Okay, they bring in their own staff if they want to. They get rid of the people who are blocking them. And the second thing is I drop all the net zero stuff and open up the North Sea. I mean, it is that simple. We've got two things that are a problem. We've got a whole bunch of people working in Westminster who don't know anything about business, don't know anything about anything. They certainly don't know anything about their departments generally. And yet we have so many experts in this country who are working in the finance world, or they're working in the energy world or the AI world, and they're not involved. And you can't do that American thing of bring someone in and say, you now serve at the pleasure of the government and your energy expert are going to be running the energy department. Instead, we get upset that some guy called Ed Miliband with a history degree who lives in North London doesn't know what he's doing with energy. Well, of course he doesn't. Why would he? He's never studied physics, chemistry, energy. So yeah, we've got to start putting the square pegs in the square holes. We've got to start bringing some of the expertise in the UK into government. And then we've got to get rid of this net zero. It's a nonsense. The UK only has a couple of commodities. It's got oil, it's got gas, it's got coal, lots of coal. Coal is still the most used energy source in the world. And we're burying ours, we're keeping it in the ground, we're keeping our oil and gas in the sea. Gas is incredibly clean. We all cook with gas in our houses. We don't need special things to take the CO2 out of the house, which we would if we had an open fire in our house, okay? Gas is a clean fuel, and we're going to keep that in the North Sea as well. I mean, there is an insanity taken over in Westminster where people aren't even looking at what's in front of them. You don't need a physics degree to know that not only you, but your mum and your grandma all had gas cooking facilities, and you're all still, well, you're alive now, so they obviously lived long enough to have you, etc.
Catherine, you make
people,
some great points. I've got to go. I have another boss
Okay.
who's shouting news at me. Thank you so much,
Okay.
and we will speak
Okay.
again. Okay? So the next time you see some either great economic news, right? So
Uh-huh.
that'll be in 2058.
Yeah.
Or some poor economic news, just barge in. Just say I want to come on and talk about it. Okay, thanks very much indeed.
Okay,
Catherine
thank
McBride,
you. Thank
an
you.
economist.
Bye.
Thanks very much. We're going to go to the news, and then afterwards we're going to meet somebody who actually knows something about politics as distinct from me. Okay, thanks.
Hello everyone, Edward the News Hughes here with your Wednesday bulletin. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation into the targeted killing of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old suspect remains in custody as officers probe possible links to other attacks, heightening security concerns for politicians, including Nigel Farage, who reports frequent threats. In politics, Andy Burnham is gaining momentum amid Labour tensions, with reports of cabinet manoeuvring as Keir Starmer's position faces scrutiny. MPs have approved the Hillsborough Law, hailed as a major step for justice. On the sports front, Jude Bellingham's double helped England advance in the World Cup. Elsewhere, plans for a midnight social media curfew for 16 and 17-year-olds are under discussion, while pension reforms could see millions working longer. Please remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers.
Yeah, hi, Kelvin MacKenzie here. We've got a super chat. I'm always pleased to see these kinds of things, basically because things haven't done very well down the betting shop for me yesterday, following your polling yesterday, which indicated that France was going to win. I then had to put the money on, and I lost that. Anyway, the point that this one makes from a lady called Laura Jane 2619, really enjoyed Kelvin's interview with Pooch. Now, I did as well. Okay, so the twice I've talked to Pooch, first of all, he tells me something which I absolutely didn't know, is that you could put on the back of your car a satellite link, which meant that you could carry on working across Europe or wherever. And if your wife was sitting there working, especially working from home, she can be working actually in the car. And the other thing was that he fought for the Aborigines in intertribal punch-ups with other Aborigines, and he's white when I last looked. And I found that quite interesting. In fact, I found it a darn sight more interesting than talking to Liz Truss. Now, that is not true. I just thought I'd throw that in just to be aggravating. Actually, I think Liz, if she started actually adding some real thought processes around her political views, but financial ones, I think that she would become another messiah or guru, as distinct from it all ending in some form of tears. Most careers end in tears. I mean, Rupert Murdoch ends weeping in a court battling with his children in Las Vegas. Is that the idea of a life well spent? I think not. Okay, now, more important is Peter Barnes has joined us.
Hi, Kelvin.
Yeah, hello, matey. Good morning.
Morning.
And what has taken your eye?
Well, I couldn't help but agree with you when it comes to the bell end.
The bell
and
end.
Torsten Bell.
Okay,
because
now this is okay. So he now, from now onwards, will never ever be referred to as Torsten Bell. Now, in being referred to as the bell end, I guarantee to you that this is not the last time we hear about this.
Unfortunately, yes. For him, unfortunately. I always think if you're going into politics, be careful what your surname is. It shouldn't be a gift to editors. I mean, certain people, I have to admit, Keir Starmer, I mean, that was a brave, bold choice being political with a name like that. But my thing is, it's not necessarily the bell end we have to be worried about, but it's the Balls, or Mrs. Balls, actually.
Yeah, Mrs.
Because
Balls.
she's now actually hot tip favourite to be the next Chancellor.
Right.
According to the two reports in The Guardian, and there was one in The Observer over the weekend as well.
Right.
So this idea that Shabana Mahmood might be moved around, that's very still out there. But like you said, it's SW1, it's Westminster, so take about a mountain range worth of salt and that you might be closer to the truth by that point. But I do think that whoever gets that job is going to probably have one of the hardest jobs, I think, in the country, if not ever in government, because Catherine there is certainly right about how close we are to economic collapse, how poor we actually are as a nation. The UK has this rather bizarre idea that we're an incredibly prosperous and rich nation.
Right.
Now, on paper, we certainly are. Per capita, by individually, we're not very good. If we were in a state in America, we'd be the 51st state. We're poorer than every other state when you work it out.
True? Well, even places like Mississippi.
Yeah, Mississippi is the 50th. We'd be the 51st.
No.
Yeah, that's how bad it actually is. And I thought
So I have a friend who lives in one of the southern states. He lives. By the way, there are pots and pissing in and all of that. He hasn't got either. Okay. He lives in a very nice little house on a very nice estate, beautifully kept. The lawns are all this and all that. Something which in our country we don't really possess. I don't know why. We have no pride often in the performance of our housing, even although it's our one big bet in life. He's never had a penny, right? And yet he lives in a way which over here would be considered middle class or upper middle class. If I don't like doing it like that, but I'm just doing it by wealth. And so that does not really surprise me, actually.
I've got quite a lot of American friends myself, and when they come and visit, they were like, "Why are your houses so small?
Yeah.
Why do you live like this?" They look at us like we're some kind of Soviet, satellite state from the 1970s. And I was like, "Well, it's always been like this for as long as I've been alive." But I do think it's interesting you bring up the fact about the housing and how much pride we take in things. And I think it links to another story you were just talking about, and that's the flags. And you were asking George Madwick from Portsmouth Council, who's a friend of mine, and I agree with you on this. And but I think it's a little bit more. I think a lot of these stories are linked together. It's because people who don't like the flag expect other people to do things for them. They don't like the people that like the flag. They don't like me and you because we take pride in things. They don't like that. And I think that's a really insipid and insidious little thing in our society now that has grown out of control. And I really think it started in the Blair era, but Gordon Brown, I think, should be demonized significantly more than Blair because he introduced transactional politics. He introduced, I'll give you this policy if you vote for me. And when that happened, that meant that, the NHS spending became like the saintly thing that it is. That's when everything got out of control. And then when the Conservatives came in 2010 in coalition, Cameron called himself the heir to Blair. Why was anybody ever surprised that the Blairite era, the Brownite era, continued when that was what was the predominant?
I asked Jeremy Hunt. I said to him, "Why on earth?" I think I referred to him as Jeremy, actually. I said, "Why on earth, Jeremy, did you clap when Blair announced that he was calling it a day?"
Yeah.
And he said, "You don't understand. He was our kind of American kind of modeled guru, and we all aspired to him."
Yeah.
I was astonished on him.
And I bet you any money you'll see it later on in about 1 hour's time when Keir Starmer takes to the floor for the last PMQs. People will clap that man because that is what they do. They don't realise what it looks like to people like me and you sat watching that. But Blair in particular still has that presence. Whenever he's around, he has that presidential air. And he brought that into our politics because he learned it from Bill Clinton. The people who worked on Clinton's campaign worked on Blair's campaign in 1997. But the one thing I think the right can learn from that is give people a little bit of hope. I can't help but notice the right is very depressing.
It is, yes.
We keep pointing out how terrible everything is and how awful everything is.
Yeah.
The people could do that. That's the electorate's job.
Okay, so that's a very good point. I totally agree with that. We have to have some sense of a change which is optimistic.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't have to push anybody down. We have to push everybody up. How do we do that, though? What is it? What is it we say, and what is the tone of the manner which we say it in?
We use the phrase build. I had a mentor when I first entered politics. He said to me, any petty politician can tear something down, but a statesman builds things. And I think that is something that's always stuck with me. He says that's how you can tell a politician and a statesman. What do they want to do? Do they want to build something, or do they want to tear it down? Anybody that wants to tear it down, you should be scared of and be very aware of what they're doing. People who want to build, give them the rein to let them build. And the way that I think the right could do that messaging-wise is to say, we get it. We understand the cost of living crisis. Don't use statistics. Use actual real-day experiences of people on the street. Jeremy Corbyn was often criticised, but I thought he was very effective at PMQs when he said, "This person has wrote to me with this story."
Yeah.
Those connect people. People can connect to that. People don't connect to a spreadsheet. That's why Theresa May was useless. Why Starmer is useless. You can have numbers on a piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything. People connect to stories. The writers run around with facts don't care about your feelings. Correct. Facts don't win elections. Feelings win elections. That is why the left have dominated.
What is the feeling then? I mean, quite an interesting discussion away from facts, and I'm a bit of a tearer downer, I must be honest with you. But so what is the feeling that the right has to say? They have to offer the sunlit uplands in some way. But a lot of our country in the last decade or so has come from other places. Now, if I looked around in Weybridge, if I look around at the shops that have been opened, right, all those shops, and when I mean all, I can only think of one. All those shops are run by people who have come to this country, right? I get on fine with them, and by the way, I go to my locals rather than than go to somewhere else. So they don't need inspiring to change because they're doing it out of possibly starvation and ambition, a mixture of starvation and ambition. What are we saying to the majority of this country who've had it great, right? If you're white, middle class, well educated, since the war, this has been a good run. What do we say to them about the next leap that has to be made? How are we going to make them feel? This great country for my kids, my grandkids, everything. How are we going to make them feel? I take that word.
Yeah, for feel, I actually think it's the sense of opportunity.
Yeah,
and I use small business is a great example of it because, again, to quote Napoleon, he once said that Britain was nothing but a nation of shopkeepers. He meant it as a derogatory thing. Yeah. I think it's probably one of the greatest compliments because it's about building a company, building something of your own and actually putting your time, your effort, your passion into something that you want to do and then turning it into a business. I think one of the things, if I was Chancellor, that's what I would do. Focus on small businesses on your high street, your local shops so that you know people, you have a sense of community. Home ownership brings community. You don't care about the front of your house because it's not your house. If you owned that thing, you care about your community more. You care about your school, your local, the potholes and stuff because you're going to be there for a longer time than whatever your tenancy is. That's a lot of how I would do it.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you an example. A relative of mine lived in Lewes in Sussex. Now, you might say Lewes in Sussex, East Sussex, is actually quite a nice town. Actually, where she lived, she bought her house. I used to walk to the centre of Lewes from where she lived. I was astonished at the state of what were clearly council-owned houses and the rubbish that was left in the gardens and all that. I pointed this out to my relative, and my relative basically shrugged her shoulders and said, well, it's not my house. And yet she owned a house, and the value of her house was surely going to be damaged by the fact that there were houses a bit further down the road that had basically washing machines or cars or some load of old garbage in there. Why isn't there, a law that says you're getting a subsidised house, which is being paid for by the state in some form or another? It has to be kept in good nick. And if you don't keep it in good nick, boom, you're gone. And I don't care that your family are all bloody sitting out there in the street and they've got nowhere to go. These are the rules.
Yeah, no, I completely agree that should exist, and I don't understand why it isn't as harsh as it is, but it's about enforcement, and it's about the people that are running these council estates for the council. They're like, oh, well, they've got this wrong with them, and oh, we've got this, and they've got that. Get rid of those people, and that is how you change things. I don't understand why nobody gets fired anymore. When was the last time you could think of a high-profile, real civil servant who got fired for doing a bad job?
Hold on, I got fired. The first thing nowhere.
No, I mean not in the public sector. In the public sector. In the public sector.
In the private sector.
In the private sector.
They couldn't wait to fire me. I walked. The Daily Telegraph fired me. Right? I hadn't even written anything. all they had to do.
That is a skill.
All they had to do
That's
was
a skill.
announce. No, seriously, that's
Really?
what happened. I get announced as the new online columnist, right? You can imagine the kind of stuff I was going to write, the vile stuff which I'm just about to start doing Substack. So people would be paying for that, right? But I get announced. The next thing I know, I get a call from the editor saying, Kelvin, I'm so sorry about this. Your employment hasn't worked out exactly as we planned. There has been an uprising, right? This is the unbelievable thing. An uprising by the turds who are described as journalists on the Telegraph, that the idea that I had been hired at all. Is that right?
No, fire those journalists. It's not their job.
Well, do you know what? That was exactly what I said to the editor. I said, forget about firing me. Why don't you fire the half-wits who have said that they don't like that? So he laughed and put the phone down.
Yeah, the same thing happened to Julie Bindel when she was at The Guardian. She was basically turfed out because of the uproar, because she believes that, a man is a man and a woman is a woman, which at The Guardian, heaven forbid you say something like that.
Correct.
Crazy, you'd be marched out on a cross. But that basically happened to her. And she basically said, wait a minute, they don't make the decisions as to her contract. That's the boss's job. And the bosses bowed down to the crowds and the baying mob. And that's what's got to stop. People have to start saying, that's not your decision. That's my decision. And I think Kelvin should stay. And those kind of things. But I think the worst example in the public sector is I used Michael Stewart. Now, he was head of Prevent. He missed Axel Ruder Cabana 3 times.
Right.
He got to retire with a pension and walk off into the sunset. Southport is still reeling from that event. How is that right? You want to change Britain? Consequences. Consequences have to come back. You can eat and drink and do whatever you like. The NHS shouldn't pick up the bill if you abuse it like that. If you don't send your kids to school, there has to be a consequence. If you don't do something, there has to be some kind of, bad thing that happens. And unfortunately, Britain got rid of the bad consequence. And we just like to be, mollycoddled, and it's always not their fault, and wrap them all up in bubble wrap and all that kind of thing. And until that goes away, Britain is not changing. You can change the person at the top, but you've got to change the entire culture at every level and in every sector. And that's how you do it. That's the only way we bring back the old Britain.
Fine. Okay. Now, that's an interesting aspect to it. Old Britain. So, with newcomers, with changes about how young people view stuff, and I'm saying young people from, now it appears like 16, but we'll say from 18 up to 30, 35, which I would still consider young. Mind you, I consider 70 young. But so if, with those changing attitudes, have we attitudes which can't prevail at the ballot box? Because actually, people rather like the fact that when things don't go very well for them, then somebody else will fund them up.
Yeah, I happen to agree, because I don't like to blame young people because they were raised that way. People will react in the environment to which they were brought up in, and I think that's a big consequence of it. And I do think there's a lot of people that like to throw a lot of blame onto young people, and I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. A lot of them need to kick up the ass and get back to work. Stop playing video games and all the rest of it. But on some stuff, when you said, "Oh, don't worry, here's a trophy because you turned up," you wonder why people behave in that manner. It's somewhat blaming them.
I do like the idea of school sports days for primary schools where everybody gets a gold medal. Why? I think we should have more weeping and wailing of the kids. I'm being serious.
I always say we should bring back bullying.
You finished 7th. You're a great fat lump. Honestly, go home, no tea. How about that? And by the way, no tea would be doing them a favour. Because they got bloody obesity anyway. Or how about this idea? Why don't we have a fat person's 100 metres? Okay?
I'd watch that.
So all the fat kids, they all run in their own race. And then you humiliate them by announcing what their time was against the slim people who had their own race. Now, if you've got any more ideas like that, could I report you to Prevent, right? Whose main job it is to defend fat people. Right. So the other thing I agree with you about the NHS, I've always said this, we should have doors which only allow a certain width of waste to come through it. Right?
Yeah.
So that, and the other thing is, in relation to alcohol, if you're pissed, you must die, right? If that's what your problem is, you must die on the pavement outside the hospital.
Yeah, I think that
I tell you what, it's this kind of liberal thought
Yeah.
process,
Do you know I think of the
which has now led to one of the actually I've now moved on that issue to the right of Mike Graham. What an appalling thought that is.
I didn't think that was possible.
Carry on, Peter.
I was going to say, because my prime example of that is the cost of obesity is like I think it's $6 billion a year on the NHS. Stop eating things. The NHS is abused by people. You know, I always think the NHS should be saved from its friends before it's saved from its enemies, because it's stopping reform. I mean, we had a church service to celebrate its birthday. We thanked God for the existence of the NHS.
Is that true?
Yeah. When it was the last major anniversary, was it 75 years or whatever it was? Like the Westminster Abbey, there was a church.
Yes, I remember that.
I mean, in what world do we think we can suddenly have a serious conversation about reform when you brought God into the conversation? I mean, when you do that, you elevate it and you make it the national religion to which it now is. It's much more than the Church of England. I mean, they could only dream of the numbers turning up. But I have to admit, it's just not going to happen.
I tell you who wouldn't have been there, presumably, or who might have been represented, is the maternity hospital in Nottingham, which seems to have either killed or injured 500 people, and yet there would be some, panjandrum representing maternity saying, "Oh, thank you so much," and all the bloody rest
That's
of it.
a prime example of about accountability. Did you know that in that investigation, middle management and senior management did not have to turn up to give evidence?
Correct.
That, not allowed. You take money from the public, you turn up to inquiry. If you don't, here's a box and a pink slip, see you later. And here's a court order to give evidence.
So to give the credit on the Hillsborough law, right, of which, actually, I know it sounds bizarre, I was a sufferer, because they didn't have cops coming in there explaining, we did brief the journos, and that MacKenzie idiot went and published it, which, by the way, had it been Jimmy Savile, I'd have done exactly the same, or any of the great scandals of the era. They won't be allowed to do that anymore, will they? Or as far as I know, they won't.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of things like that, it's mental to me. But I don't understand how you're just not allowed. You could just say no if you're in that situation.
Yeah, correct.
First of all, it's children and babies and mothers in the worst situation you could ever imagine. In English, there is not a word to describe a parent that has lost a child. There's not a word for that. Do you know, like we have you're an orphan or something like that. There's not a word to describe, because it's how horrible it is. It's said that the English decided not to have a word for it.
No, I didn't know
Yeah,
that,
and I always think it's always just horrific to me that the NHS is kind of held up as this bastion of love and all, everybody holding hands and all the rest of it, and yet it behaves like that. And it protects certain people. And you mean, let's be real, at the moment, it's out openly defying the Supreme Court ruling on what is a woman by having, people with all these different sexes and all the rest of it wandering wherever they like. I mean, at what point do we have to say that these people think that they're above the law? And that's not a good thing for anybody. You can like the NHS, but you can't, no one is above the law.
What did you make of some of the stuff that Liz Truss was making, the points that she was making? I mean, I presume she's made them before. She'd never made them to me, but there we go. I've never interviewed her before, so I don't know. I was rather taken by her view that there had been a progressive, that whatever progressive means, I've no idea what it means. It basically that people have to pay more tax in order to fund the skin, That seems to be the main progression. Do you accept that that's the case, that we are actually in the grip of the left? It didn't really matter whether it was Labour or Tory.
100%, yes. And I don't think necessarily it's this kind of deep state thing. I think it is a cultural thing. I think the country tends more to the left than it does to the right. And I actually think you could trace it all the way back, realistically, to things like the foundation of the NHS and the end of the Second World War, because there was a great leveller in society. And that's when things like social politics really started to take a hold, and we developed the NHS and the nanny state and the safety net, and all this stuff started to come in. And once, I always like Friedman, the US economist, he has one of my favourite quotes. He said, "There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government programme." In other words, that's it, the NHS was not supposed to last this long. It was literally designed to be a short-term programme. But people got hooked on it, people got used to it, and therefore we are stuck with it. Another prime example, the triple lock. The triple lock was not brought in to help pensioners. It was brought in to scare Gordon Brown from a general election. That's why Gordon Brown threatened.
Tell me.
Can we quickly go to Sam and keep Peter?
Pardon?
Can we go to Sam Dickinson, who's waiting, and keep Peter?
Oh, right, yeah, sure. What are we talking to Sam about? I know.
Here we go, and Widdicombe.
Okay. Hi there, Sam. Hi, Sam. Can you hear me?
Morning, Calvin. Morning.
Yeah. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All
I
right.
can hear you.
Before you start, Calvin, before you start, before I set my own business, I worked as a union rep, which was heavily involved with the NHS,
Oh.
and the wastage is frightening in terms of absence alone of staff. Frightening. You know, these guys get 6 months full pay for their absence, and then they go down to half pay for 6 months. At that point, the internal teams at the NHS then start to manage the staff. So, you know, it's costing the taxpayer around £40,000 in sick leave alone. Never mind the cover.
How difficult? I mean,
Yeah,
it's fantastic to look at this. We'll look at this very briefly, but on the NHS side, how many? So presumably, with such fantastic payment with sick pay, people are not only going sick at amazing levels, they are staying off for the whole duration of the 6 months.
Yeah, oh, it was longer. You know, I had to represent one employee once that had been off for 13 months, and they were only just starting to manage the absence at that point. So you're probably talking another 6 months before they've removed that person from the business, if they're going to at all. It's a huge cost to the taxpayer. You've got their wages and sick. You've got the management time spent managing it. You've got the cover that they're going to need because they need to hit safety ratios. And these guys use occupational health every single step of the way. In the private sector, 12 weeks and it would be done.
That's amazing. And did they look upon it in the strange way as a right that sick pay was actually, because it wasn't really being monitored, or being sick wasn't monitored, people would simply say, well, I'll take 2 days off next week, and then the following month, actually I can go away with my family, but without damaging my holiday entitlement and all that. Did they actually build sick pay into their working year?
I have seen that. Yeah, I absolutely have seen that, and it always leads into mental health. It always leads into mental health, and you know that research that came out recently where I can't remember the number, but doctors had never actually spoken to patients. They just issued the mental health sick note, and that's really where it starts in the management of it.
Right. So Sam, let's just talk about the one issue which really dominates politics, really, which is the murder of Anne. It to me, we are at a crucial moment here, because you can get copycats, you get all kinds of things. We've now got, you know, whoever did murder, and if you look at all the backgrounds of these people, there'll be a lot of people like this kind of person living a quiet, totally off the grid kind of life. Nobody really knows, and suddenly, by the way, is then bright enough. Okay, supposed to have issues, bright enough to find an address, bright enough to drive 500 miles in a day to a remote moment, bright enough to knock on a door and do a whole load of, terrible things. I mean, it makes you wonder how many other people there are out there like that. There are 650 MPs out there, right? I would say all of them, in a strange way, need some kind of protection now. All right, it's a huge cost, but democracy surely entitles people to these kinds of protections. And the idea that Nigel Farage wasn't automatically given it, because once you're a high profile, spotlight permanently on you. Actually, a guy, I've actually been in a pub with Nigel Farage, actually an uncomfortable experience, because what happens is that whether you're pro him or anti him, everybody spins round, everybody knows you. You only need to have somebody who's had a few drinks over there, and they come over and say, hey, I want a word with you, and all this kind of crap, right? It's a hugely, you'll end up living outside your voters, right? You end up feeling fearful, I think, all the time. What's your point on this, Sam? Well, your view, more interestingly.
You know, I think we definitely need to look at the security and give these guys security. What they're doing is they're putting their head above the parapet, whether it's Hannah Spencer in the Green Party or it's Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
That bit doesn't matter to me, and I think everyone needs that equal protection, because the opinion, the politics matter less. The safety of these people matter more. And I think when you look at Anne Widdecombe, for example, she's been a high-profile politician for 30 plus years, or she was, sorry. You know, she was regularly coming onto programs like this, still, you know, putting her political viewpoint across. And what really bugged me about the full thing is actually some people's response to her murder.
Yeah.
No MP, no politician deserves to be murdered. Why do a certain group of people think this is acceptable to celebrate someone's murder? Why?
Yeah, I read about that guy. Well, I'm sorry, I called him a guy. I don't want to cause a problem. The transgender,
Herbert.
yeah, right, web developer, works for Aberdeen University. We are now on day 6 of him saying that I hope she had a painful death. He actually said she actually said worse than that. Can you imagine the other way round? We had a Conservative Reform administration, right?
No.
A senior, and on that basis, somebody had said from the right something about. Said something about on the left. Honestly, they'd be fired within the day.
Instantly. Yeah,
Within the day. How is it
absolutely would.
acceptable? How is it acceptable? A week later, this person is still not. There has not been administration about their exit. It's impossible to understand. Our country is Aberdeen a strange place? It's just elected a Tory MP, for God's sake. Perhaps that's the problem.
My stance would be is, you know, I have my own business. I have an HR consultancy for small businesses. And if that happened, the first thing I would say is we need to suspend Heather Herbert.
Yeah.
We need to suspend him.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's going to cause too much of a detriment to the university, and we then need to investigate it. But ultimately, he's not backing down on it. He's not. He's doubling down on it. He's agreeing with it. And the problem I've got as a gay man is these people think they're speaking for all of us within the lesbian and the gay bisexual community. They're not. They are absolutely not. I am fed up now of sitting there and seeing people that sit on the right of politics that are gay being scared to speak up. Because that type of conversation where we say, aren't we glad someone's dead? I hope they had a painful death. That becomes the norm. And it feels like it's only over the past few years where that's really sort of started to develop.
So the BBC, they have a political programme. I didn't see it yesterday. And they invited on there some rather strange young lady who appears to be some kind of eco-warrior of some kind, and in which they were talking about Anne Widdecombe. And then she comes to the point. She said, well, I have to raise it with you that she wasn't popular with everybody. Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of politics. Thanks very much indeed.
What politician is.
Right, yeah. And then said she had a sad end. What kind of expression? So I would have expected the presenter to have said, do you mean to say she was murdered? She was bludgeoned to death. She was 78 years old. That's what you meant to say, wasn't it? Instead of that,
You would expect that.
it's just allowed. It's just allowed to exist. Oh yes, that was sad, wasn't it? Oh, poor old Anne, how sad that was, and all the rest of it. What? You know, I wonder now whether our lefty establishment actually permeate all kind of our arms of the state. And the BBC is clearly an arm of the state. They should get themselves a new presenter.
And have you noticed as well that they have to turn everything back to Farage? So I've seen this where I've commented online, I've posted about it, and I'd put a status up saying, you know, about this, how the left are celebrating someone's death is absolutely abhorrent. And straight away the left wing come flying in and it's Farage. I never mentioned Farage. Yeah. Why do you have to bring everything in with Nigel Farage's name? I didn't talk about that. But, you know, they turn around and go, well, did you see him? He was staring at the cameras as he was going to pay his respects, and it was all about him in front of the cameras. And I'm like, hello, if you've got 10 or 15 cameras in front of your face, where do you think you're going to look? It's all got to go back. It's all going to go back onto Farage this, Farage. no one's talking about this. What the whole point of what I'm trying to make is somebody has been brutally murdered who shouldn't have been, who was a high-profile politician, and we've got to a point where we think, or not we, but the left wing think it's acceptable to say, yeah, but they were right wing, so it doesn't really matter. If I said that, if a left wing politician had died and I said that, I'd probably have the police at the front door right now.
No, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. I mean, it's amazing that I'll say this briefly, Sam, good conversation, by the way. We must have a longer conversation about this. I noticed yesterday the Times were reporting that Farage had said that he'd had 797 death threats since February, mainly on X, by the way. Can I just say, and that basically there were a narrow load of nutters who were basically wanted to kill him. If that had been a lady from Peterborough, right, she'd be serving a treble life sentence already. Why haven't they identified these people and arrested them, the cops? You know, there is a political feeling about what.
Why hide your identity as well? What are you scared of hiding? What you're trying to hide? Why, all of these accounts where it's some ridiculous name and it's not their picture, and put these abhorrent views out. The reason why is they know what they're saying is wrong.
Yeah, great. So,
otherwise,
Sam,
they'll just do it with their face.
I'm very sorry, Sam. I've got to go. I'm under the cosh here. Very good conversation. Good luck with your business, by the way. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it with Pete. So Sam runs a HR business for small companies. Small companies need HR advice. Don't worry about that. There's a lot of trouble out there. Caused mainly by bloody-minded employees, by the way, not bloody-minded employers. I just thought I'd say that. I'd throw that in for Thrums. Anyway, thanks very much. You've come to the wrong address if you think I'm going to start backing the union side of life. I must be honest with you. Okay, we're going to the news. And afterwards, got some fascinating couple of guests coming up. I'll tell you about it when you're back.
Edward the News Hughes here with your Wednesday bulletin. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation into the targeted killing of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old suspect remains in custody as officers probe possible links to other attacks, heightening security concerns for politicians, including Nigel Farage, who reports frequent threats. In politics, Andy Burnham is gaining momentum amid Labour tensions, with reports of cabinet manoeuvring as Keir Starmer's position faces scrutiny. MPs have approved the Hillsborough Law, hailed as a major step for justice. On the sports front, Jude Bellingham's double helped England advance in the World Cup. Elsewhere, plans for a midnight social media curfew for 16 and 17-year-olds are under discussion, while pension reforms could see millions working longer. Please remember to like and subscribe. Latest Tigers.
Chancellor. There you go. Yeah, hi there. Kelvin MacKenzie here. A friend of mine, Ben Keith, has just sent me some odds on who's going to be the next Chancellor. I'm 7-4 on. No, I'm not. That's the way he makes his money. Yvette Cooper, 5-4 on. Shabana Mahmood, 15-8. Miliband, 4-1. Pat McFadden, 6-1. I've got more chance than him. 12-1. Wes Streeting. Darren Jones. I read somewhere he's going to be dumped back to business secretary. Good. Jonathan Reynolds, we can forget about him, he's done for. Louise Haigh, who apparently I read some piece about Louise Haigh saying that she was a lifetime friend of Burnham.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
The odds on Rachel Reeves.
The
odds on Rachel
Reeves. Rachel Reeves is 28 million to 1. And
you're so right, by the way, about the Mansion House speech. I have a friend who was actually at the speech, and they said they were applauding because she left the room.
Wouldn't that be great? Everybody standing up.
Yeah. Someone's there packing a desk for her.
When you go to football and your side scores, the thing that most makes me laugh is everybody waving to you. Bye. That cheers me up. Yeah. I even prefer that to the goal being scored. So that's what they should have done. All stood up and given it some of that. Thanks very much.
That was that selfie that they all did with Andy Burnham in Parliament, all the Labour MPs. Bye.
Oh, Starmer. Now that will be fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to watch out for that, Peter. If they give him a clap, right,
they will.
That will be the lowest moment of socialist politics.
400 and odd of them stabbed him in the back.
On the more serious aspect of of life. Obviously, the Anne Widdecombe murder are beyond shocking. 78, and obviously, according to neighbours, walking very slowly, looking frail, actually. Coming up now, two guests, Jean Hatchett, who runs an organisation called Ride for Murdered Women Project, and Matthew Hulbert. I won't hold this against him, but he's a former Lib Dem borough parish councillor in Leicestershire. They are both, as we both are, simply appalled at the reaction from the left. I can't imagine why they wouldn't actually just have an outpouring of love and affection towards a 78-year-old. You reach 78, she has done good work. She has, I mean, she strikes me as a very bright woman. I presume she should have gone into commercial life, and with that kind of mind would have made her fortune and not have to take the vilification. Why they wouldn't just celebrate the fact that a 78-year-old woman has died in shocking circumstances. They don't do that. Jean, perhaps you'd like to talk through how you feel about this, about the left particularly. What is it about them?
I mean, I wanted to talk about this character Herbert as well, because I think that's intrinsic to the left. I think at the moment, I mean, I once considered myself incredibly left-wing, and now I don't know where I am, because the left is not sensible, or all the things that they try to impose on women, this kindness to these men pretending to be women. It isn't kindness. And so when you've got a woman murdered in such horrific circumstances, and let's face it, at the moment of her death, she must have been terrified.
Correct.
So regardless of what her views were, and she had views that perhaps would have been different to mine in some areas and similar to mine in other areas, it doesn't really matter. It absolutely doesn't matter. And when Jo Cox was murdered, the entire political spectrum was united in condemning that murder and being grief-stricken about this woman. Now, why is it different from Anne Widdecombe? What specifically is it about her views that are just the opposite of the right wing, of the left wing views, that mean that it's okay to murder her? It's all right. It's even some sort of moral justice, which is absolutely abhorrent. But I think, if I can talk about the Herbert character, his name's Scott, and I will call him a man, and I will always refuse to call him a woman. I think this is symptomatic of the left's hatred of women. And if a man was a wife beater, I'd condemn him, you'd condemn him, everybody who wasn't a wife beater would condemn him. But when you get these trans characters, these men saying they are women, it's a whole new level of misogyny, because they can do these awful things. They can be quite violent, and I've had violence directed at myself by these characters. And yet the sympathy narrative is with them. And the left side with these men who are, saying terrible things about women. And, they manage to get the sympathy. It's absolute misogyny on steroids, and a lot of people have said that, but it is, and the left is riddled with that in various forms. And I would imagine that this person would have a set of views when they are caught, when they are identified. I predict they'll have a set of very, very left-wing views on Gaza, trans women. I think there's going to be a prescriptive list here, because that's what the left have become. Their kindness is misdirected, and then their cruelty is also misdirected, and that's what's happened here.
Fantastic thing to have said there, Jean. I really, really applaud you for saying that. It's a good piece of thinking there. Matthew, good morning. Shall we talk about Anne Widdecombe first? So what is it you think that motivates the left towards abandoning any sense of... Somebody said to me that actually, immediately somebody use the word kindness, you know that they're just about to be beyond vile about something. Yeah. They can't seem to equate, in this particular case, that it doesn't matter what their politics are. We're talking about the death of the murder of a 78-year-old, a lady who didn't have anybody to protect her. She didn't have a family. She didn't have a husband. She didn't have sons or daughters who were able to come round and help her and defend her. She didn't have anybody. She died alone in her own house, which she'd bought and paid for. I mean, honestly, in the middle of nowhere as well. She was completely defenseless. And her murderer, whoever that was, knew that. It really was everything that has ever been said. So tell me, Matthew, what do you think? You're not of the left, but you obviously have feelings about what is it that motivates activists not to embrace her in the same way as they would if it was one of their own.
Hi, Kelvin. Good to be with you this morning. And hello to your fellow guests and indeed to Peter as well. So I had a couple of interactions with Anne Widdecombe about 20 odd years ago when I was a local radio reporter here in the Midlands. I interviewed Anne Widdecombe. She was coming to an event at Coventry Cathedral, and I spoke to her on that occasion, and she was very forthright, as you'd imagine her to be. And then a few months ago, I had an opportunity on a different channel to debate an issue with her, and I'm also quite forthright, but I have to say I was kind of trembling in my boots on that occasion to be debating with Anne Widdecombe, and I think she saw me off in good order on that occasion. Look, I mean, as you might expect, I disagreed with her on a whole host of issues, but I think that's democracy. People have different worldviews. They have different values and principles. That's entirely fine. That's the basis of our parliamentary democracy. But you can disagree with someone and still know that they are a human being who loves and who is loved, who has feelings, who is a person in society. And what has happened to this poor woman last week is beyond abhorrent.
So do you, in your kind of journalistic career, on your radio career, do you come across the left very much, or are you really caught up? Actually, funnily enough, we should say that on the Lib Dems, they in order to find votes, they have been pursuing the left, haven't they? I mean, let's be honest about it, Matthew.
Look, I mean, I like to think of myself as of the moderate centre, and right. I guess most of my views would be considered centre-left, but the centre bit of that is important. And I have no truck with some of these dreadful dregs of society who've been saying the awful things that they have this week. And I was very shocked. To be fair, he apologised, but I was very shocked initially to see the comments of Peter Tatchell, someone who I respect for the fact that he's put his body on the line on occasion for fighting for people's rights, and I respect that. But I thought his initial comments, which he later retracted, this was on the day that her death was announced, right? Calling Anne Widdecombe a bigot and other things. I just thought, I tweeted him and said, Peter, you're better than this kind of commentary. So I honestly don't know, Kelvin, what gets into the head of people who seem to think to themselves, I disagree with the politics of this person, therefore she is an awful person. Therefore, what has happened to her is somehow her due or somehow acceptable. I mean, I kind of worry for the human race when we start thinking like that.
Yeah, right. That's very good. So I've known Tatchell for the thick end. I know you're going to find this hard to believe with a face as attractive as mine, but I've known Tatchell for the best part of 4 decades. And actually, I rather admire him, especially for the fact that he's taken beatings from either Russia or Africa for having his views, right? When he said that, why didn't he, after all, he's quite a political guy, Tatchell. Why did he not think, if I have views like that, the truth is the woman was murdered, right? Does it really matter now whether I had disagreements with her or not, right? The woman is dead, right? She's a 78-year-old woman. He's not far off that age himself. If he was beaten to death, my God, the world, whether it's from my end of the spectrum or another end of the spectrum, would have massive outpourings for him. He wasn't prepared to give to Miss Widdecombe the generosity of spirit that would be demanded by the left for Peter Tatchell. That's what I couldn't understand. He is a bright guy. He's a good advocate for his particular views. And on this occasion, he was mad. But what about that huge tub of lard who does Sky? Adam Bolton. Oh my God, who I described in a tweet. By the way, he never comes back at me. I'd like him to come back at me. I'm just waiting for him round the corner, right? By the way, it'd be a very large corner that he came round, by the way. And I described him as what was the name of that? A Monjaro reject, right? Right. He applied to be ambassador for Monjaro, and they said, "I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry, we don't do trousers that size." Anyway, I'm being a bit flabbist here. Jean, so we believe in free speech.
It's going to be controversial now, then.
No, I don't think so. I don't. We haven't got anywhere near it. We've got people in here, they're controversial, Jean. But the question that we boil down to, that one of the problems about free speech is that we can be offended, right? And we are offended, okay? There's no ifs and buts about that. The alternative to not allowing free speech, no matter how appalling it might be, is actually a dangerous area, isn't it? Which is actually you can think those thoughts, but you can't actually spread them on social media. Let me ask you this: would you be in favour of curtailing that, or would you say actually we've just got to put up with the vile thoughts of other people?
I think there's. Can I just say that I don't think better of Peter Tatchell at all. I think it's exactly on brand for Peter Tatchell, and the only reason he apologised is because he was trashing his own brand, and I have zero respect for him. I think he's a misogynist, and he's expressed some dreadful things. Anyway, but I defend his right to say it. You know, it's he will get feedback on saying it, which is what he had, and then he did his faux apology. But no, I think we should all be able to say what we think, and you know, there will be, for me coming on here to speak to you, I will be criticised by other left-wing feminists. They will say, why is she there? Why is she doing this? And I just think, no, I'll speak to you. I'll speak to anybody. I'll speak where I want, and I'll say what I want. And it's taken me a long time to get there, because that voice of condemnation that you hear when you want to say something, you've got to think through a number of channels now. Even now, you know, we supposedly have free speech, but you've got to think, who am I going to offend? Are they going to report me? In fact, for me, you know, some of the work I've done on the anti-Semitism here in Sheffield, are they going to turn up at my door? Because it's very easy to find out where I live, and I do say very controversial things online, and I don't hold back. But you have to make that decision. Am I brave enough? Yes, I am. I will say what I think. And then there's someone like Herbert expressing what he expressed. He's gone to another realm, because what he could be doing is inciting people towards violence. And, you know, what really worried me about weren't his words. You know, he can say those words, but it's the fantasizing of a woman's death that made those words a different level. He was enjoying the thought of what happened to her when she died. And that's, I think, has been an excess level to the other comments we've seen, like Bolton's comments about old maid. You know, women hear this all the time. And that can be challenged, can't it? You know, if we've got free speech, you can say something terrible and I can say something terrible, and we'll go up against each other. And then that can be observed by others. But yeah, you know, is there a level? I don't know. He's got the feedback he deserved. I mean, I was nearly sacked 2 or 3 times when I was a teacher. And for just saying that men aren't women. You know, and that I don't believe in non-binary. I think it's a load of rubbish. And I kept being brought in front of my head teacher. I'd never said these things in front of children. I'd only said them online in my capacity as an activist. But, you know, it's very chilling when you start to tell people what they can't say and where, you know, that right to a public life is as well when you're in a job. So, yeah, no, I defend free speech to the hilt. Offend me as much as you want. I'll laugh.
Okay, Jean. Well, you haven't been as fired as many times as I have. I can tell you that. It's a great enjoyment being fired. Honestly, I laugh at it. I don't get angry at it. Right, Matthew. Quickly from you, how do you feel? I mean, Jean just said actually, free speech it should be allowed under these circumstances. I'm not really advocating for it. I'm just asking you a question. would you curtail free speech about on these kinds of issues, or would you say people should expose what they're really thinking, and then everybody will then know what they really think?
So I disagree with Jean on a couple of points, and that's good because we're all here talking about free speech and democracy. So the first point is that actually I'm not a free speech absolutist. We all have to live within the law. When you're broadcasting, you have to live within the law, otherwise you get in a lot of trouble. And I think there are social mores which I personally think we should have to abide by. So I'm not a free speech absolutist. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, and I feel that I need to say this because I think someone needs to on this network today, is that, and I'm not talking about this dreadful individual who has said what they have said, which is appalling, but actually, I've chaired an LGBT plus charity here in Leicestershire, and I've worked with lots of trans people, and actually the ones that I worked with, all they want to do is to get through their day without being persecuted, without being spat at, without the most vile things being said of them. So I just think that needs to be said on this channel this morning.
Look, I agree, but isn't the truth about the Matthew? I didn't know we were going to go on to this, Matthew, right? But isn't the truth about it is that the trans lobby is that you obviously don't. You obviously, those people aren't in this area. This is what you say, and I totally accept that. The trans lobby is enormously powerful, and actually, they can be pretty vile to anybody who is taking a different view. For instance, I imagine Jean gets the most tremendous bucket load. How do you feel about them when they're vile towards Jean, for instance?
Can I just say that can I just say, just to give you an example, it's only a few weeks ago that my partner and I went to observe, not to counter protest, but to observe a trans protest against, God knows, I can't even remember now, but in Sheffield here. She took a flag, one flag, a suffragette flag, so the archetypal women's rights flag. It was snapped in two by these guys. They surrounded her, they pushed her. If they had caught her, if they had managed to get there, I got her out of there. And she wasn't particularly well that day. She's just incredibly brave. But they were out for her blood. One man circled her, felt her breasts, pretending to be a woman, of course. It was vicious and it was dangerous. There were no police around, but that was just for a flag. So, I'm not listening to this. Oh, they've spat on. And it's quite the other way around.
Okay, I'm very sorry, guys. Actually, I'd like to hear this debate again. With Jean, you one side, Matthew the other side. Remember, we're into free speech. So thank you very much indeed for both of you. And I'd like to give you more time. Now, we go straight back. So, we were having a debate about feelings. I remember you saying, how is it the right can just be on the right side of the argument, but sell it in a way which, for instance, some of our guests there, I mean, even that guy Matthew, for instance, LGBT guy, I got the impression that he could possibly make the move, but there seems to be a block of people like us who can make the move, but we can't seem to be sweeping forward. In the way that Labour swept in 24. I don't get the feeling that 29 is going to be like that.
No, 24 was basically they will vote for anybody as long as they're not Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
I think that the loveless landslide, as it's always called, because barely anybody actually voted for the Labour Party. But I think the way that the right can really sweep forward is we have to start being human beings and being seen as human beings. One thing I noticed from that discussion and the ones we had earlier with Sam, we are othered. The right is othered by the left. And once you are othered, you are somehow, whatever happens to you, it doesn't matter because you're not a person. You're not a thing. And we have to start showing a little bit of compassion, but also being very firm in our principles. And that starts by holding our own side accountable. When our own side steps out of line, we go at them as if it was the left when they step out of line.
Do you know
I think
what?
that is the big thing.
Okay, so that's a great point, a really good point, and one which was not embraced by Reform.
No.
By picking a guy from Macclesfield who they should have known, or even worse, did know that his online presence was such that actually it was offensive to every woman in the country. And so there's polling in Sweden, which shows that there are 2 blokes for every 1 woman who vote right. Unless we get 2 for 2, we are the right is never going to make a progress.
The right needs to win back what they call Waitrose woman. It is the middle class, middle England voter. The right has lost them for a long time, and more importantly, that voter actively votes against the right. Doesn't matter who they vote for, it's just not a right-wing candidate. So it doesn't matter whether they're a Tory or a Reformer. Most of the polling for the last 3 general elections has shown the decline of women voting for right-wing parties.
Right, well, what we're going to do, Pooch, is we're going to get on a woman marketeer, right, who knows about all these kinds of stats. I didn't know about that. I'm very grateful to you, Peter, for a very fascinating discussion. We need to get on somebody to come on and explain how we capture the word feeling in order to make the right successful. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. That was great stuff, that. I really enjoyed that. I particularly started to enjoy, first of all, you, but I particularly, if we'd had that conversation go on for about another 2 minutes, there would have been the most enormous punch-up, because I think the old LGBT chat was just about to come in and go bang. And actually, I didn't mind him. I don't mind that voice, as long as we have it. After all, we had a left-winger on there, we had a lefty on there, and we had a guy at the very centre was centre-left. Yeah. I wondered for 1 second whether we were on Newsnight.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, coming up now. Thank you very much for all these tweets, by the way. The family are basically, I pay them a super chat, and they keep on saying, "Great show, Kelvin." It's my way of getting the feeling out there. Right now we have once again we got Paul Cox, World Cuppery, and
World
Paul,
Cuppery indeed.
World Cuppery. So tell me, Paul, I'm working last night. I mean, a man of my age, I've got to keep the money coming in. There are big things happening in my life. They seem to be expensive, like a driveway. So what did you make of the game? I didn't even see the game.
The game had all sorts of promise. Teams 2 and 3 ranked in the world, Spain in 2, France in 3. And France had been the most promising team in the World Cup so far on their footballing display. And they just didn't turn up, Kelvin. They didn't turn up at all. Spain railroaded them. France just, they had the onions around their neck. They were still eating their garlic lunch. And they just weren't there at all. Mbappe had nothing to do with the game, just strolling around like an arrogant Parisian. And it just didn't happen for the French. And the Spain went marching on.
So, okay, now, England tonight, it's everything, right? I didn't expect you to have heard this. I said at the beginning, I found that old headline that Private Eye used during the Falkland era, which was Killarney win a metro, which I thought was was one of the better lines that I'd heard during the time.
Days they were, right?
I throw in a couple of my own. Stick it up, you junter was my favourite one during the Gautieri years, right? That wasn't my headline, but as I told everybody what I worked with, I'm claiming it as my own on the basis that you guys drop me in the shit in the libel courts all year, and I take the punch on the nose from the owner and the bills, and so I'm going to nick the headlines. Okay, your bet tonight, Paul. Come on, give it to me. What's the score, and what kind of game do you think it's going to be?
Look, it's going to be 2-0 England. Argentina haven't really faced any real opposition yet. They struggled against Cape Verde. Now, Cape Verde were the heroes of this World Cup, of course, but they were minnows by comparison. I think it's going to be easier than we believe, and that's not just hubris on my part. I think England have the heart of a lion at the moment. Thomas Tuchel is a great manager. Technically, he's going to set them out very well. If they show half the spirit of Mexico and most of the spirit of Norway, England are going to go marching on to the World Cup final. And what good that will do our divided country, Kelvin.
Yeah, I totally agree. As long as you don't fancy putting a flag out in the Portsmouth area, in which some clapped out Lib Deb orientated employee is then forced to take down St George's flags at a time when even the socialist hotspots at number 10 are putting flags out in the window. I find it an exceptional and ludicrous aspect of our politics that our people are not allowed even to show the flag. Paul, I can't understand it.
No, look, Portsmouth is the city of my birth. Portsmouth is the football team I support. Portsmouth is the closest city to where I live. I love Portsmouth, but what we saw yesterday all over social media was just really a disgrace for the city, a disgrace for the Lib Dem councillors. No successful country can have that level of authoritarianism and dislike for the country's flag and be successful at the same time. Things have to be done about this. It was not intimidating. These were flats full of English people, and they should be able to support England.
Well, that by the way, Paul, is probably the best line I've heard in the whole thing. I wonder whether you might like to come and sit here, and I might come and give my views about Brentford and Woking. Anyway, thank you very much indeed, Paul. I very much look forward to your show, which actually is doing surprisingly well. And if you carry on doing as well as that, I'm going to have a word with you. Okay, one more comment is turning up. I can't read it. There's something of Eric Morecambe about Kelvin's interviewing technique. He insults his mildly insults his guests, and they are queuing up to come back on. Love it. Yes, there is an aspect of that, right? I must say, there are aspects of that Morecambe and Wise stuff. They can show it today, and they can probably show it in 1,000 years' time. That Previn gag must be, perhaps we might show it sometime. That Previn gag remains probably one of the cleverest gags. And do you know the way they did it? I think the guy called Brabin used to write most of it. The way that this was one guy writing it. In America, for good and for bad, they have massive teams which they replace with every series. And yet here was one man doing this. There was one man writing Only Fools and Horses. These are artists of kind of Mozart techniques. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. This is Kelvin MacKenzie saying goodbye. I'm not in tomorrow. I'm in on Friday instead. But
Layla's in tomorrow.
Yeah, Layla's in tomorrow. So what you get with Layla is not only 500 years younger, also you get an intellect. This is just tabloid stuff, I'm afraid. Sorry. Good night.
Hello, everyone. Edward the News Hughes here with your Wednesday bulletin. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation into the targeted killing of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old suspect remains in custody as officers probe possible links to other attacks, heightening security concerns for politicians, including Nigel Farage, who reports frequent threats. In politics, Andy Burnham is gaining momentum amid Labour tensions, with reports of cabinet manoeuvring as Keir Starmer's position faces scrutiny. MPs have approved the Hillsborough Law, hailed as a major step for justice. On the sports front, Jude Bellingham's double helped England advance in the World Cup. Elsewhere, plans for a midnight social media curfew for 16 and 17-year-olds are under discussion, while pension reforms could see millions working longer. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Good morning / afternoon, World Cuppers. It is July the 15th, the second semi-final. Come on, England, a historic day, and we have a packed show. 3 guests. Whatever that was last night, we're going to talk about that. And England, Argentina, and even better than that, World Cuppers, Mark Littlewood. Do you remember him? He is on his way to freedom. I've been worried about him. You've been worried about him. He was stitched up. The stormtroopers were on his back. He got a train to freedom. And as with all trains, even the train to freedom is running late. However, please play clip 1.
Hello, common sensors. Just keeping a bit of a low profile at the moment. As you may have seen, there are stormtroopers everywhere. As you may have gathered, I've doubled back to Rannoch, the beautiful, beautiful Rannoch. And I'm trying to set up a meeting with some important people to make sure that I can get off this ridiculous felony charge of smuggling in contraband panini, also now considered a hate crime because it took the mick out of the Italian team for not qualifying. But I had a tip-off. Then you're going to need the support of the White House. But here in Rannoch, I found it. I have found the White House. This must be what they meant, right? So I'm heading into the White House now and hoping for their political assistance. Catch you later. I was told if I want to get off these trumped up felony charges of smuggling in Panini stickers, then I need the support of the White House. And look, in fairness to them, they said our top priority is to make sure that our favourite football players in our favourite teams who've been sent off don't need to face any suspensions at all from playing future matches. And I get that. But they've promised to give me a hearing later about my basic human rights and this contraband issue that I'm just trying to deal with. And so I've got my fingers crossed. If I can set up a meeting for them later, then I'm hopeful that by tonight I might get a full pardon. Let's see what happens, but may get off on this trumped up charge. Catch you later, Tigers. I'm hearing great news from my foreign allies. It looks like I'm going to be safe. The Panini sticker issue is all going to be quashed. It's all going to go away. And Coxie, here's one for you. To celebrate, Anthony, take it away. Oh, when the Saints go marching in, I knew you'd love this, Coxie. I knew you'd love it. Anthony, take it away.
Good God. I don't know what that song is. What a dreadful tune. Never heard it in my life. Seeing that as a hate crime, to be honest. Look, Mark's not here yet. Freedom train running late, naturally. It's not being run by British Rail. Come on, Britain. But I do have Glyn Brailsford, the Glindex. He's with me. Glyn, are you there, mate?
I am, Coxie. How are you doing today? Ready for tonight?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. Say that again, sorry, my friend.
I'm saying you're ready for tonight, Coxie. Can't wait.
I am. I woke up with equal measures of excitement and sort of that knot in the stomach when you get to this stage of a tournament and your country are still in it. But you know what, Glyn? I don't feel like I did in years previous, in years gone by. I actually feel like if we play well, if we do what Thomas Tuchel tells us to do, we will go through against Argentina to our first World Cup final since 1966. Do you agree, Glyn?
I do, but shall we talk about last night? Because I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about tonight's game and the rest of the show. So,
yeah, let's do that.
I called it right yesterday. Bastille Day, right? The French defences were stormed. French royalty was banished from the tournament. And it was never a contest, was it? The French just didn't turn up. So what did we have? We had a brilliant team against a team of brilliant individuals. And the team won in this case.
Glyn. Production team, please can you pull up Mark's studio? Please pull up Mark's studio. I'm getting the drums. I can feel the drums, Fernando. There it is. He's not there yet. I hear... No, I can... Oh, my God. Who is this? It's Mark Littlewood.
I'm back.
He's free.
I'm back.
Come on.
We've made it. We've made it. We've made it. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear, Mark Littlewood.
Absolutely,
we can hear you.
Thank you for you, Paul, you, the Glindex, all of the viewers. The White House have got me out of trouble. All charges quashed against me. Letter of apology from the Met Police. I'm back. I'm good. And I'm in the right kit to interview our first guests, as you'll have noticed. Don't worry, I'll be getting more patriotic as the game goes on. You guys are feeling pretty confident tonight, aren't you? Can we pull up image 3 on the screen, please, Pooch and team? It's us against for Argentina. Should be a pretty easy match for us, shouldn't we? We were saying yesterday, a two-man team for Argentina. Farage in his late 60s. He's, had a good run, but even he admits he smokes and drinks too much. Tina admitting that England are simply the best, better than all the rest, better than anyone she has ever met. So I'm feeling confident. What about you two?
Look, there's going to be no penalties, nothing to worry about. So what have gloves got to do with it, Mark? That's what I have to say.
Yeah, just a second half emotion.
If only I had a yellow Mark, I would be handing it out right now. I tell you what, Farage could never pick a football team. He'd just fill it full of right wingers, right? That's never going to work.
Yeah. Very true, very true. Look, guys, we're going to have to pick the bones out of yesterday's game, where the French obviously thought it was a public holiday, which I think it was in France. So I'm going to come back to you two in a moment, but I want to bring on back on the show my all-time football hero to tell us what he's thought about the World Cup to date, to tell us what England need to do to get to only their second World Cup final in history, their first in 60 years. Please bring up Le God, Matthew Letizier. Matt, how the devil are you doing, sir?
Very good, thanks, Mark. And you?
Yeah, bearing up. I'm glad that I've finally escaped to freedom in time to watch tonight's game. Matt, what have you made of the World Cup so far, and in particular England's progress, which at times has been dramatic, at times stuttering, at times inspiring, but here we are in a semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few teams that go through a World Cup being brilliant every game, and we certainly haven't been that. But what we have had is an incredible attitude to get through tough moments in games, going behind twice and coming back and winning games. It's a great trait for a football team to have, and that fills me with a lot of confidence going into tonight's game. The tournament as a whole, I think for me, it's probably gone on a little bit too long. And I did see something the other day where Infantino was talking about expanding the World Cup again to 64 teams next time round, and I think that's a bit of a joke, quite frankly. I think this one's been a little bit too long, and if you stick another 16 teams in, you're adding another week or 10 days onto the tournament, probably. So bit too long for me, and I think we need to have the cream of the crop at these tournaments. And it's not just an all-inclusive world where it's the taking part that counts, and let's give everyone a go.
Yeah, I was joking with Pooch earlier, Matt, that if we expand it to 64 teams, even Italy will qualify. I mean, you've got to draw a line somewhere, right? You've got to draw a line somewhere.
Absolutely.
Now, let's look ahead to tonight's game. England, according to the bookmakers, are the marginal favourites, but it's nearly a coin flip. What do you think England need to do? And I agree with your analysis of their performance to date. We probably haven't shown, other than in flashes, brilliant technical ability, but shown a lot of heart, a lot of guts, especially, turning around games from 1-0 behind. What do we have to do to stop the Argentinians and potentially, according to the conspiracy theorists, stop the referee?
I think firstly we've got to put all that stuff out your head, with all the stuff that's going off the pitch. You just got to concentrate on what you can control on the pitch. And for me, when I look at the two lineups, I don't think we have anything to fear. I don't think we're looking at playing against a team that is, so superior to us that we've got to change our tactics. I feel, for me, and I think Tuchel will be like this. I feel like if we play our game to our best of our ability and they play their game to the best of their ability, I think we'd win. So I think that's the thing that we've got to concentrate on is concentrate on ourselves, do the right things for us, do play to our strengths and not worry about their strengths too much. Because I think if we play to our strengths well, I think we win the football match.
That's really interesting. And look, Messi, now in the twilight of his career, but still a fantastic player. Similar traits to you, Matt. I mean, obviously he's not quite up to your level. I preferred the way you played football, but Dean Windass was on the show a couple of days ago and saying we should just man mark him, just put one man on him. And look, like his range of talents don't necessarily include pace in the top 4 or 5. Do you think we should just try and take Messi out of the game? Because if you give him an inch, just like you could do for Saints, you can play an amazing ball that totally changes the game. He can score from pretty much bloody anywhere. Do we just follow him around the pitch, down the left wing, down the right wing, to the toilet if we have to?
I'm not sure that that's absolutely necessary, if I'm honest with you. I feel like we've got enough decent defenders with enough quality to actually take care of him as and when the ball gets near him. I don't think we have to designate somebody to to literally follow him around the pitch. I don't think he's that kind of danger. You know, I mean, I saw the stats this morning that, you know, he's done the most walking during games at World Cups. I mean, I was very jealous of that stat. I mean, that was pretty impressive. Um, but I think Kylian Mbappe was second in that stat, which did surprise me a little bit. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'd prefer not. I think we should just concentrate on our own game rather than change our game and make it a 10v10 match. I think we can win this as an 11v11 normal match.
And who are you looking at, Matt, for our game changers? I mean, Bellingham's probably been our standout player. And again, like Messi, you know, you don't necessarily need to be involved in the whole match. If you can just show 30 seconds of brilliance here and there, that's enough to win the game. Are you looking to him to be our match winner yet again?
Well, I think we've got two very special guys. I mean, both of them scored 6 goals this tournament, which is, you know, pretty impressive. You know, and Jude, as you say, within the space of a couple of minutes, basically won us the game against Mexico. You know, and then showed that incredible heart to hang on with 10 men. But you can't rule out Harry Kane. You know, Harry Kane is in the form of his life. He's had an absolute worldie of a season. It's been incredible. The goals to game ratio is just ridiculous. So you wouldn't put it past him netting 1 or 2 goals tonight. You know, he's probably got something. He's probably a little bit disappointed in perhaps the Norway game. So he didn't get much of a sniff there, and he'll be eyeing up that trophy for top goal scorer again. So I think that might just be something that spurs him on to get on the score sheet again as well tonight.
Yeah. Now the selection issue. Tuchel keeps saying that they're all fit, apart from obviously like Jordan Henderson's got his arm in a plaster, and Quansah's obviously suspended outrageously for a second match in my view, but.
Yep.
Reece James and Declan Rice, who would make the starting 11 if fully fit, unquestionably. You know, Rice, I think, had been ill in bed for 2 or 3 days before the previous match, and it showed he was nowhere near his brilliant best. Reece James, injury prone. What's your view, Matt, on sort of taking a risk on, you know, some of your best players, even if you're looking at them and thinking, oh, they're only like 85% fit, they're 90% fit. Do you bench them or do you play them?
Yeah, that's the question is what percentage of fitness do you make the cutoff point at? You know, I think if Declan Rice is 90% fit, I think you play him. If he's 80% fit, I think you probably play him. When you start getting down to the 70s and 60s, I think you're then being a little bit rude to the players that are in behind him who are 100% fit waiting to play. Tuchel obviously has to make that call alongside, the advice that he's given from his physios. But let's hope that he is, at least 90% fit, because I think he's a pivotal player for us in that midfield. Although Elliot Anderson, I think, has had a very good tournament as well. He's proved to be very reliable in the centre of midfield there. So I'm hoping that Deck, after a few days, I think should be a lot stronger, because he was, as you say, he was nowhere near 100% fit in the last game against Norway. He just wasn't at the races. You could tell. I mean, his set pieces, he could barely reach the near post from the corners that he was taking.
Yeah.
And that's not like him at all. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Reece James again. He got through, a fair few minutes, and seemed to come through unscathed. So hopefully that's good, and he'll have another few days. Would have had another few days with the physios since that game, and getting stronger each day. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he starts as well.
Here's a couple of stats to conjure with, Matt. You mentioned one of them, that Jude and Harry have both scored 6 goals. No nation in World Cup history has ever had 2 players scoring 6 goals. That's an absolute first since the tournament began. Another odd stat there is we haven't had a single goal scorer who plays in the Premier League. Jude, Harry and Rashford. Do you think the team is benefiting a bit from the fact that we've got players dotted around in different countries? Whereas sort of back in the day, because the Premier League's so strong, you'd expect virtually every player to be in a Premier League team. I think Steve McManaman back at the day was at Real Madrid, but by and large, you were looking at Premier League players. Has that assisted the team, that Harry plays his trade in the Bundesliga, that you've got Rashford and Gordon Wilby obviously at Barcelona, and you've got Bellingham at Real Madrid? Or am I looking for a signal when really that's all just noise? But no Premier League player has scored a goal for us yet.
I mean, the fact that our 2 main goal threats are playing abroad has something to do with that. You know, if they were just run-of-the-mill midfielders or defenders and they'd been the ones scoring the goals, you could probably look at that and go, oh, that's interesting. But I think I would have expected Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham to score the majority of our goals at this tournament. You know, you would like the wingers to chip in a little bit more with goals, but you know, I'm not sure. You know, you'd really expect Elliot Anderson and Declan Rice to score too many goals. So it does. It's not a big surprise, but you know, I'm sure the fact that those boys are playing to a level that is just absolutely incredible at the moment, and that is probably being helped by playing in a different league.
Yeah. Did you watch France-Spain last night? What did you make of that? I mean, everyone's saying France didn't turn up. I mean, what I'm demanding tonight is England leave everything on the pitch, right? And I think you're right, we're the better team. But France, oh my God, favourites for the tournament. They weren't unlucky. They just didn't show. They didn't even have a shot on goal for 75 minutes, I think it was. I mean, feeble way to go out, really, for such a brilliant team, wasn't it?
It was pretty feeble. I was so surprised watching that football match last night. You know, to see that strike force that they've got, you know, and watch them a lot during the tournament. To see them just look so powerless to try and do anything against that Spanish defence, it was incredible. I really feel like the shape of the team needed to have been changed quite early on in that game. You know, you could see fairly early how the game was shaping up, and Spain just dominated the midfield, and France just looked short of numbers in there.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that Didier Deschamps didn't actually do something to try and address that problem. But you know, if you said to me before the game, you know, if England are going to get to the final, who would you rather play? You know, I would have said Spain. So,
Yeah.
so I think we have to take that as a positive. Although Spain are a very, very good football team.
Yeah, really interesting, isn't it? I mean, I don't want to count chickens or put carts before horses because obviously we've got a difficult task tonight. But I agree with you, Matt. I would much prefer to face Spain in the final. But would you say that they are the literal definition of a great team in that they haven't got any standout players? I would have given Cucurella, I think, man of the match yesterday, left back. He was excellent, but there's no one talisman there. There's no like two players that you're keeping an eye on, but they seem to work together absolutely phenomenally in just controlling the match. I mean, maybe Rodri in midfield, he had an excellent game as well.
Rodri is a Ballon d'Or winner. You know, Lamine Yamal is a Ballon d'Or winner in the future. I don't there'll only be any doubt about that. That boy's a very special talent. So yeah, they do have some very good individuals, but as you say, they do make a very, very good team. And that's going to be that's their strength, and that's going to be the one thing that we have to, you know, if we do get to the final, that's the one thing that we'd have to try and break down and try and find a way to get past them, because I think they've only conceded one goal the whole tournament. Belgium, I think, was the only team that scored against them.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll have to get you back on Friday to preview the final, Matt, if we make it that far. Let me ask you, what's your prediction for this evening then? How do you see this panning out? I'm going 2-1 to England in 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 in extra time.
Oh, wow. So what's that based on? That they tire more easily than us, or that we're a kind of clutch team? We can find it when we need to.
Yeah, I think we find it when we need to. I think it'll be fairly tight football match, and it wouldn't surprise me if it did go to the extra 30 minutes. But I think you know, we've done very well when we've played extra time. You know, and if we get an early one, they're going to have to push to try and find an equaliser, and I think we'll catch them on the break and do them 3-1. That's my hypothesis, but I've been wrong before.
Don't be wrong this time, Matt. Don't be wrong this time. Listen, thanks so much. Le God, Matt Le Tissier, the best player to grace a football pitch in English League history, in my wholly unbiased opinion, as you can tell from my shirt. Great to see you, my friend. Enjoy tonight's game.
Cheers, Mark.
Thanks so much for your analysis. Hope to see you and speak to you soon. All the very best,
Cheers,
Matt.
Mark.
Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Let me bring back in Coxie in the box and the Glindex just quickly before we go to the news. Cox, what do we reckon of Matt's take there? I know he's one of your all-time favourite players, as he's played for the best team in Hampshire. What's your thinking, Coxie, on Matt's read that we'll win 3-1 after extra time?
absolutely fascinating, by the way. I hadn't heard of him. Matt Letizia. I mean, great shout for Pooch to book a French player to come on after that. I mean, absolute trolling there from Pooch. The idea of it being 3-1 after extra time fills me full of a little bit of anxiety, actually, Mark. I like the idea of your 2-1 and my 2-0. But the idea of going to extra time, but of course that's probably likely. I mean, look at what happened with Mexico. Look at what happened with Norway. There's no way they're going to smash 3 goals in the first half and park the bus. But there you go. It is England. I just have a sense we're going to be okay. And I think the football gods are on our side because I have a sneaky suspicion that the conspiracy gods and Sic Infantino is not on our side.
Yeah. I see some people in the chat arguing that having on a man called Matthew Letizia is a breach of our strict English language only policy, but you have to make an exception for the best player the Premier League's ever seen. Glyn, the Glindex, what was the Glindex take on Matt's take? We're all feeling pretty confident, right? I can't ever remember playing a team as big as Argentina and feeling confident. Not cocky, but confident.
Yeah. I'm nervily confident, I think. Matt, by the way, I think if we stuck to your rules, is Matt the Weaver. I think that's what if my schoolboy French is correct. I'm just wondering where he's going to go with the team tonight. And I think we had a glimpse of something in the Norway game. After Declan had gone off, I love Declan Rice as a player. But having Rodgers on the pitch and Bellingham behind him, that was a fairly potent combination. I wouldn't be surprised if he stuck to that tonight. So if Declan is only 80% fit, his game relies on running. And even if we're going to be in an air-conditioned stadium, I think he's had, a couple of days rest? I still don't see him being completely up to speed. But I think we're going to nick it. I think it's going to be a nervy 1-0. I'll be, at the back of the sofa watching, peering over the top. I think we'll do it in the 90, 1-0.
Well, there you go. We're all feeling pretty confident. The chat's looking pretty confident as well, I think. So, look, lots of people are saying, if it goes down to penalties, who will be taking them? We'll get into that later in the programme. So, Glindex and Foxy Cox in the box, you might want to think through who your top 5 penalty takers are. I think the first 2 or 3 are pretty easy. But if it gets to 6, 7 or 8, then it starts to be a bit of a...
Stuart Pearce is at the top of my list.
Chris Waddle.
I've got Stuart Pearce. And Paul Ince as well. So fingers crossed they're both fit.
We got David Batty on the bench. He's always good against the Argentinians in a penalty shootout. So there you go. Gents, we need to get some news. Then we're going to go to my next guest, the great Kieran Maguire. I'm going to be talking to him about how FIFA have come out of this tournament. I mean, the football as well, but the money, the finances, and the organisation of it. But Cox in the box and the Glindex, thanks very much. Much more to get into. More great guests to come. But first up, here's Edward Hughes with the news.
Hello, everyone. Edward the News Hughes here with your Wednesday bulletin. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation into the targeted killing of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old suspect remains in custody as officers probe possible links to other attacks, heightening security concerns for politicians, including Nigel Farage, who reports frequent threats. In politics, Andy Burnham is gaining momentum amid Labour tensions, with reports of cabinet manoeuvring as Keir Starmer's position faces scrutiny. MPs have approved the Hillsborough Law, hailed as a major step for justice. On the sports front, Jude Bellingham's double helped England advance in the World Cup. Elsewhere, plans for a midnight social media curfew for 16 and 17-year-olds are under discussion, while pension reforms could see millions working longer. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
That was Ed Hughes with the news. Look at this. I am Superman, basically. Quick change of kit. I was told by the UK Live Online legal department that Cox was getting a bit too triggered as a Portsmouth fan, that I was in a red and white Saints shirt, and we had Matt Letizia on the show, and he's already been reporting me for all sorts of hate crimes since he's been on this programme. So I wanted to avoid any further distress and offence caused to Mr. Paul Cox. So here we go. We're all united behind England now. Now, let me bring up my next guest. A warm welcome back to the show, and in the right kit as well. Looks like a proper one, not a cheap knockoff one like mine, Kieran. Welcome back to the show. How have you enjoyed the World Cup? And how much are you looking forward tonight? With hope and confidence, or with a certain degree of fear, nervousness, and dread?
I think it's been a fantastic tournament. We've seen the occasional upset, Norway beating Brazil, Germany going out earlier than expected as well. The crowds have been there, despite I think some of the reservations before the tournament started. And it's like nearly every World Cup. If you go back to Russia in 2018, in Qatar 2022, Brazil 2014, there was a lot of noise and chatter. But once that first whistle blows, you can then ideally forget about all of the off-field nonsense and focus on the football. So yes, I've enjoyed the tournament. I'm feeling very relaxed and confident about tonight. England are the better team of the two. My colleagues at the university, that they did a supercomputer prediction 4 weeks ago before the tournament started, and it predicted an England versus Spain final. So they're 50% of the way there, with a fair chance of making it 100%. So I've got confidence in my colleagues, and I've got confidence in England.
That's really good to hear. Where do you see the game being won or lost? Is it a midfield battle? Do you see a chink of armour in the Argentinian team? Do we, beat them down the left with Anthony Gordon, for example? Or are we just reliant on Jude Bellingham's, brilliance in the hole? Is it getting the ball to Kane as much as possible? What would be, if you were in our manager's shoes, where would you see their soft underbelly is, basically?
Well, as somebody who works for both the League Managers Association and the Professional Footballers Association, I've come to the conclusion that my knowledge of football is pretty close to zero. I know a wee bit about the financial side of things. I think, however, they will have been very thorough in their preparation. Thomas Tuchel will have a strategy for the match. I think where England have their greatest strengths is going forwards, the utilisation of pace. I think the constraints that existed in the match against Norway, which were largely driven by the humidity and the heat, and also what we saw against Mexico, ideally that won't apply to the same extent today, and therefore I think we've got bigger lungs in terms of the overall strength of the squad, and we've got a much stronger bench. So I think the utilisation of that bench to bring on new ideas will be to the fore, and that will help us ideally to win.
Now, Kieran, what I really wanted to talk to you about, I mean, I don't like talking about all the politics and the money, it's the game that we all love, but I've got to talk to you about FIFA, because I agree with you, it's been a wonderful tournament, actually. I think the best World Cup I can remember, really, so far. I mean, obviously, if we get a great semi-final tonight and England win the tournament, it will obviously be my favourite. But at this late stage, I think it's been my favourite to date. But I've got to ask you about FIFA. I first met you when we were doing a Radio 4 show about corruption in politics, the moral maze. I mean, FIFA have come out of this utterly appallingly, haven't they? I mean, I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on sort of conspiracy theories of refs not checking VAR properly, but then double checking it for Argentina's opponents. But the stuff that we can see right on the front of the tin about the USA managing to get their players' red cards suspended, Kwanzaa's extended by, I mean, something is going badly wrong, isn't it, at the top of the game? Or am I just sort of reading the tea leaves and seeing conspiracies and malevolent forces which are not there?
I think as fans, despite the fact that we don't like some refereeing decisions, we don't like some managerial decisions, we don't like some players at times, there is still at the back of our mind that there is an integrity working overall within the game. That has been called into question during this tournament. The decision to reverse the Balogun red card and to spread it over a year, the decision to remove 2 of the games from Cristiano Ronaldo's 3 game suspension prior to the commencement of the tournament because he is a Galactico, because people want to see him. It was good for brand FIFA. I think the decision to crowbar into Miami into the Club World Cup last year, simply because it allowed Lionel Messi to go into FIFA's competition. I think all of these issues call into question the governance and the decision making at the elite end of FIFA. There's many good people at FIFA, I can absolutely assure you. But the desire for power and the desire to preserve power, it looks like Gianni Infantino is going to be re-elected as the president of FIFA for another 4-year period, is going to be more of the same. And his latest idea is to have a 64-team World Cup in 2030, which has both pros and cons.
Now, what's the way out of this, Kieran? I mean, I love the game, but I'm such a sort of jaded fan now that I just kind of shrug my shoulders and accept that FIFA are going to be absolutely ridiculous. That UEFA too are also going to be kind of ridiculous, and they've got me by the short and curlies because I love the match so much. I'm not going to go off and develop a great interest in lacrosse or something. I'm addicted to football. But what's the mechanism by which change could be brought about? I mean, it seems to me ridiculous that Infantino would be anywhere close to being re-elected as FIFA president. You've had UEFA were basically, or at least the individual associations within UEFA, the European associations were united as one about the rescinding of the suspension and the red card. What would be the mechanism of finally sorting out the governance of the game? Should the European associations secede from FIFA unless a range of demands are met, for example? That would basically kill it stone dead, and then invite the South American confederations to join in some new global governance model. I mean, maybe I'm thinking too radically here, but what would need to be done to actually put the international and continental governance of football on a stable, sensible footing, which by and large, I think I observe and witness in American sports, but very rarely in the beautiful game and the world's most most loved sport?
Well, I think you raise a valid point there, Mark. If you take a look at American franchise sports, they are governed by an individual, effectively a superintendent of the game, who has the confidence of the individual members, and that they deliver in terms of profitability, in terms of negotiations with broadcasters and so on. I think the challenge that we have with Infantino and FIFA is that as far as the individual members, remember there's 211 voting members of FIFA, and the vote of the Turks and Caicos Islands and the votes of Bhutan is exactly the same as that of Argentina or England or Germany or the United States, or in terms of it's one football association and one vote. FIFA is very good at distributing money to its members, and this tournament has been a spectacular success financially. It's generated probably around about $13 to $14 billion. It's going to make a profit of around about $10 to $12 billion on the back of that, and that money will go to the individual FAs, who in a few months' time will be asked to vote for a new president of FIFA. Now, Gianni Infantino is the prime candidate for that. Why would they vote for anybody else? Why would they vote for change if he effectively is funneling cash towards their football associations on an annual basis? I can't see it taking place. If we take a look at the individual confederations, we've got Africa, South America, and Asia, who have effectively already agreed to vote en bloc in favour of in favour of Infantino. That's 110 votes out of the 211. So he's already got it in the bag. If UEFA put up an alternative, it will be seen as a token piece of resistance. But if the World Cup is being expanded to 64 teams in 2030, could FIFA or could Infantino, out of spite, ensure that UEFA get none of those extra 16 places? People will work on what's in their own best interests.
So what do you think about my succession strategy then, at least as a threat that you renegotiate the terms and conditions? Because it may well be, I mean, you're right, Cape Verde have the same vote as England or Germany or, Spain. But if the UEFA, the European nations said, we're just not putting up with this anymore, good luck organising your World Cup of the Vatican City versus Uruguay, but we're going to walk out. We're going to set up something that involves all of the main European nations and possibly the European minnows. And then we're going to extend a branch of friendship to Brazil, Argentina, the three best teams in Africa, Japan and South Korea, to see if they want to join us. And we'll be hosting something called the Football World Cup of 2030. Join us or not. But England, Germany, Spain, Portugal and the rest won't be competing in your completely screwed up FIFA competition anymore.
I think it will be very difficult because FIFA, rightly or wrongly, are the governing body of the world of the world of football. There are certainly 1,001 reasons to dislike FIFA under Gianni Infantino. But I'd go back to what I was saying earlier. There are many brilliant people within FIFA, and there are many brilliant things that FIFA do in order to bring the game to a much wider audience. I've seen countries where they didn't even have a football pitch to begin with, and FIFA has pumped money into those countries. So it would be making life worse for many other people. We already have a European tournament once every 4 years. So a combined tournament with 3 or 4 countries from South America. The South Americans quite like Gianni. They get the opportunity to host the World Cup every few years. It is taking place partly in Uruguay in 2030. I absolutely understand where you're coming from. Unfortunately, that ship has sailed in terms of the integrity and governance of the game. And we either like the FIFA that we have or we lump it. If UEFA decides to go alone, I'm not sure it would generate a lot of interest elsewhere. I think we could in fact see a backlash in the sense that the rest of the world would say, well, actually, that's great, because there's a fair chance that we will have 2 European countries participating in the World Cup final in 2026. It will be great from their point of view if it enhanced the chances of more teams from South America, more teams from Asia, and more teams from Africa, for example, making progress. I'm sure the United States would love to get to the final of the World Cup, regardless or not of whether it included any European teams.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And, breaking the code and splitting into different codes is, generally speaking, does not help sport. I'm a free market, pro-competition kind of guy, but sporting rules are a natural monopoly, right? I don't want 6 different competitive World Cups. So we possibly need to basically lump it. Look, Kieran, as you know, on this show, we only follow the science. So I was fascinated earlier about you saying this data model predicted a Spain-England World Cup final on Sunday. Are you going to tell us, before we let you go, what it predicted the result of that final was going to be?
It did predict a Spain win. I mean, that's the downside. And I think Spain have been magnificent in this tournament. But when it comes down to individual matches, as we saw 12 months ago, nobody would have anticipated Crystal Palace beating Manchester City in the FA Cup final. They would be 2 clubs, there'd be 2 teams that would be closely matched. Spain are a magnificent whole unit. But as we saw last night with France, everybody can have an off day, and there's no reason why England can't take advantage. But of course, we've got to win tonight.
Kieran, great to hear from you again. I notice you have got over your right shoulder Panini Legends. I've got in all sorts of trouble for collecting Panini stickers. I've now had my various convictions quashed. It's now just a domestic issue for me that I'm spending too much on completing. What is Panini Legends?
It's a history of the Panini sticker. And for men of a certain age who now have to claim when they walk into newsagents that they're buying Panini stickers for their grandchildren, it's a much cheaper and much more nostalgic alternative.
So have you got all the albums going back to 1970? That was the first one, wasn't it?
Well, that was when I fell in love. That was my first World Cup. Sadly not. We had quite an impoverished upbringing, so it was seen as a luxury in our household.
Okay. Kieran, great to have you with us. Good luck with continuing to collect Panini. I totally approve of that. Enjoy the game tonight. And, let's hope for a beautiful football tournament, and let's hope that in future, somehow, somewhere, FIFA improves. Great to have you with us, Kieran. Always a joy to speak to you. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thanks, Mark, for the invite. Good luck tonight. Come on, England.
Enjoy. Come on, England. Right, let's bring back in my wingmen, the Cox in the box and the Glindex. What do you think of maybe it's just my Brexit leanings that I want succession from FIFA, right? You go in, you do a fake renegotiation, it doesn't work. We have a referendum and 52% of us decide that we're going to walk out. Football's coming home. The international headquarters will be in Southampton, obviously. And we build it up all again from there. What's your take on that, Paul?
Well, I think above all else, what we want is just a fair, transparent FIFA. Look, the thing about FIFA and world football is it's a huge moneymaker, an incredible moneymaker. And of course, with that, inevitably comes greed. And unfortunately, the beautiful game, the people's game, has seen some incredible amounts of corruption over the years. We had, Sepp Blatter before. We've now got Infantino, who was going to be the refreshing new face of FIFA. But this World Cup has shown that he's really no different to anyone that's gone before. So I'd rather we didn't see a breakaway. What I'd rather see is just some decent people at the top of FIFA and making sure that these people cannot be corrupted, whatever that takes, because it feels like one of these positions where people get into it and then they line their pockets so that for the rest of their lives they're incredibly comfortable. I don't know what it takes. Maybe give them several £1 million a year or whatever as a salary. I don't know what it is, but let's make sure we clean it up, because I've had enough of this. It's very simple. There's agreed rules and we just need to stick to them.
Yeah, Glenn, what do you think as well? Are you a Remainer or a Leaver on the whole FIFA issue?
Sadly, a Remainer. I've been calling him Sycofantino the entire tournament, right? So you know what my feelings are about him. But like Coxey, he's right. Before Sycofantino, we had Blatter, just as bad. And I'm afraid in football, money doesn't shout, it screams. And even if Sycofantino went, would we replace him with anyone better? I suspect it would be somebody else who might have, the nose sniffing around the till.
Yep. Right, let's get into some of the issues about tonight's game and whether we are going along with these conspiracy theories that the whole thing is rigged for Argentina. It's a little bit of a long clip, this one, but I think it's a good one to play. And this will be worrying news that although Matt Letizia and Kieran Maguire both said that England have got the better team on the pitch, it's that old cliche, isn't it? Are we up against 12 men, not 11? Here is what I thought was an interesting but really goddamn concerning analysis from the Grand Madridista on X. Give them a following, track them down and find a following, follow them. Don't mind supporting the channels that we reference and refer to. But let's play clip number 2. This is enough to put the fear of God into the heart of every England fan before tonight's game. That is clip number 2.
I hate to be the one to say this, but it's true and somebody has to say it. England's problem against Argentina may not be Messi. England's biggest problem might be this guy. Okay, now before all you Messi and Argentina sycophants go crazy and start cussing at me, let's go through this together, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay, number one, in a very, very strange looking draw, Argentina gets the easiest group ever seen in the history of a World Cup. Number two, not only the group, but the bracket. The easiest bracket up to the semifinals anyone has ever seen. Okay, they got to the semifinals without playing a single team in the top 15. Very, very rare. Number three, Argentina is the team that has traveled the least in the entire tournament. No having to worry about long distance travel. That's a big coincidence. Number four, the team that has played most matches at night to avoid the heat. Again, very, very convenient. Number five, all the help that they've gotten in every single match, starting with Algeria. Messi, a clear stomp on an Algerian player. Not a red card. It wasn't called, not even reviewed. Not even a VAR review, in addition to a million elbows in that match that weren't called. Number six, the match against Austria. The McAllister foul before an Argentina goal. Not even reviewed. Not even reviewed. VAR did not exist for that. Number seven, the Cape Verde match. Not just a million fouls and elbows, but a goal was allowed when the keeper had not finished setting up his wall. Messi shot it early, and they allowed the goal to stay. Was it reviewed? Absolutely not. Number eight, the Egypt match, which I don't even need to discuss. This is the greatest travesty in the history of the World Cup. I did a video going over the 11 mistakes that the refs made in that match, and they all favored Argentina. I don't even need to go over that one. Number nine, the match against Switzerland, the second yellow in the middle of a pitch for simulation. Simulation is given a yellow when it's a player in the box feigning a penalty. It is never given in the middle of the pitch. This is totally unprecedented in the history of football, and you'll never see it again because this was completely fabricated. And number 10, if you don't believe me and you don't believe your own eyes, maybe you'll believe mathematics, because math doesn't lie. Look at these numbers. Column 1 is the number of fouls that a team makes before the ref finally pulls out a yellow. Column number 2 is the number of fouls that your opponent makes until the ref finally pulls out a yellow. And column 3 is the net of the two numbers. Okay, have a look at this. Do you think this is a coincidence? Because I don't. Okay, so if you don't believe me or your eyes, you should believe math. And I hate to say it, if they had the audacity to do to Switzerland after everything that happened in the Egypt match, maybe they have the balls to do it again in the semifinal. So I hate to say this, but England's biggest problem in this match may not be Messi.
Yeah. So what do we make of that? I should say that the refereeing team tonight is largely American. So perhaps we need to do all a bit of singing the Star Spangled Banner. And the fourth official and the backup referee is Italian. So I don't know. I mean, Italy is a famously completely non-corrupt country, isn't it? So I'm sure that's fine. But our fate may rest in the American refereeing. Look, Coxey, the numbers don't lie. Follow the science. What do you make of those numbers?
Look, you can make statistics do whatever you want for you. You know that, Mark. I know that through my corruption scandals, endless corruption scandals over my career. And I've managed to get away with a whole bunch of things because I've managed to make the statistics look like I am innocent. All I know is that if we play well and score goals, this is how simple football is. It won't matter how hard the dark forces are trying to work against England or in Argentina's favour. We will go through. We will absolutely go through. Bellingham's on form, Kane's on form. If we can get Rice fit, Reece James fit, anyone, if they're all fit, then I think we have a great chance. The only problem we've got is if we don't take our opportunities and there are incidences where there's maybe a 50-50 or an off the ball or a reaction to something that one of the argy-bargies has done, then it starts to get tricky. If I was Thomas Tuchel, I would be saying to the team, just do as I say and we will win. And that tactically, I think he will be very astute. So I'm putting all my faith in football and all my faith in the England players.
Okay, but it may be an obstacle to overcome. Let's pull up image number 4 and hold that on the screen. Image number 4, similar to what we just saw in that video. So this is how many fouls have you committed per yellow card. So for every fouls England have committed, for every 7 fouls, England get a yellow card. Argentina, 22. Now look, disguises all sorts of stuff, right? It's not supposed to be proportionate to the fouls. It's the nature of the fouls, all of that sort of stuff. But Glyn, look, I mean, on the face of it, 3 times as hard for an RG to be booked as an English player.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point in the tournament where I go, something smells really bad here. Now, as I said, we keep talking about Sycophantina. I think Nick Nab said he's doing his finest work in the tournament so far when we were watching that video. And the weight of evidence now is so suggestive of something rotten at its core that even I'm normally skeptical about this stuff. I go, if you want to find a conspiracy, if you look for it, you'll find it. I tend to believe in cock-up, not collusion or collaboration. But the weight of evidence, and fairly good evidence, I think, is really stacking up. So I find it really worrying, and I hope Coxey's right, but I wouldn't be the slightest bit surprised. Jude Bellingham, Jude Bellicose, always plays on the edge, right? Very easy for him to get a red card in this game because I'm sure Argentina will practice some of the dark arts. We've seen it before. Simeone, Beckham, you know the story. I wouldn't be surprised to see a repeat again.
All right. Let us know in the chat, ladies and gents. Are you worried about this? Is it 11 against 12? And if so, does it matter? We beat Mr. Moonbelly in Mexico with 10 against 11. Do we need to? Are we going to have to? And can we win if it is 11 against 12? Look, we're going to go into extra time on the show today because there's so much more to cover about this match. Let's hope it doesn't go to extra time tonight. I'm still saying I think England can do it in 90 minutes. But I want to go over to a man who loads of you were demanding we got back on the show. God knows why you were demanding we got this man back on the show. He has been our one true guest who absolutely loathes association football. He cannot wait for this whole tournament to be over so he can get back to what he calls proper sports like baseball and gridiron, whatever the hell that is, all the way from the great state of Colorado. I'm delighted to be joined by my grumpy friend, John Caldara of the Independence Institute. John, how has this festival of association football been for you? I bet you haven't missed a cotton-picking minute of it, have you?
I'm not certain. Is it still going on? I mean, you guys are still talking about stuff, but I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Are you still in the country? Can you leave? Can we build a wall? I don't know what the hell you people are talking about. All I know is that this is some sort of game that's, you play for 90 minutes, somebody makes 1 point, and everybody goes crazy and spends more time celebrating than they did actually winning a point. So I have watched more soccer in the last 3 minutes with you guys showing replays than I have in the last, how long have you been here? 10 months?
At least that. And they're going to extend the tournament. You'll be delighted to hear, John. Next time round, there could be 64 teams in it. We are nearly succeeding in our imperialist mission of making sure that association football is played 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year.
Use your hands. Pick up the ball. People are banging their heads with balls. Hitting their. What kind of sport somebody kicks a ball and you want to hit it with your face? Whatever you guys want to do, you taught us how to say the word nil. That's the only cultural experience we've had here.
Right, so here's my theory, John. Let me see what you think of this one. Whilst I love America and I love Americans, I think you are all suffering from a collective mental illness called attention deficit disorder, right? Basically, your attention span is so small that you can only follow sports. You can only follow sports, but in which there's a score every 6 seconds or something. A 1-0.
You're still talking?
Did you hear any of that at all, John? Sorry, it was more than 3 sentences, so I'm not expecting. Maybe I should communicate through the medium of mime or something. So you Americans all like high scoring now?
Because baseball is such a dash a minute, exciting explosion of power. Have you been to a baseball game?
What's the average baseball score? Something like 7-4, something like that. How many runs in an average game?
That. Yeah, but you're playing a sport where physical contact is treated the same way toddlers treat their bedtime. It's like, look what happened. That's not a sport. These are just grown men becoming trillionaires running around being hit in the face with a ball. If that's what you like, let me tell you, this is why we had a revolution 250 years ago, so we don't have to watch soccer.
I thought it was something to do with the tax on tea or something, but no, you were worried about the emergence of the English game.
Pick up, use your hands. How can you have a game that you don't push people over?
I would prefer football how we play it and not play the throwy catchy like the USA do, says Chris D8478. So what are the sports going on at the moment? It's the height of the baseball season now, is it? And we must be moving towards
we are in the wonderful, glorious days of baseball where you go out to the park, you watch them play this beautiful game, you talk. It's civilized. The fans don't rip down anything. Nobody gets into a fist fight. It's a beautiful sport. And then when the weather gets colder, we play a man's sport, which we call football. Football because you use your hands. You catch it. And we do kick it. We do kick the ball, and it's not round. So we don't know where it's going when it bounces on the ground. It's exciting. And physical contact is not optional in football. So that, unlike soccer.
Right. So now here's another thing, right? We're all told over here.
I just found out, by the way, along with half of America who's listening to this program, I just found out that Argentina is still in the World Cup. So
Yeah,
this is the height of how much we care about soccer.
Yeah, that's true as we're broadcasting live, John, but it will not be true by the end of tonight. I'm sorry to tell your American viewers, Argentina will not be in the World Cup by, what is it? It's god-awful time in the morning, your time, isn't it? You're
It
7
is
hours
6 in the morning. Do you realize I had to stay up all night drinking just so I could spend a little time with you talking about the world's silliest game where grown frickin' men sit around and kick the ball, 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 and then they fall down, and then they fall
Right.
down. It's not a
Now,
sport.
hang on. I want to make another criticism of your so-called American sports, right? Because we're told over here that we should aspire to the kind of American enterprise spirit that, you build things up from being a ma and pa shop into being, listed on the Dow Jones. If you fail, you dust yourself down, you go again, and you just keep grinding away until you succeed. There's real jeopardy in the American economy. You might, see your first 3 company efforts fail, but your sports, there's no jeopardy at all. You come bottom of your division, you just go again next season, right? I don't know, who are the crappiest teams in baseball? The Colorado Rockies? They end up with a terrible season and they just go again next season. No punishment for failure. No punishment for failure in your sports. It's a disgrace. You're basically communists.
No. We have a beautiful system in football where instead of relegating the worst team to, Siberia or some other league, we actually give them the first pick next year so that they can get the best players. So we reward incompetence, which is the way democracy is supposed to work, Mark.
Yeah, so I gather that. So all your sports are basically based on a welfare state model, right? The more you fail and the more hopeless you are, the higher up you go in the pecking order of the draft. This is rank socialism being practiced in the land of the free and the home of the brave, John. Face up to it.
But we get to use our hands in the damn sport. I don't know how you don't focus on this. Grown men running around kicking things. This was a toddler's game of kick the can, and somebody said, we can get Europe to play this. I mean, again, it's a great sport for little children and Europeans. Both are allowed to play, but Americans don't play soccer. Sadly, we do play basketball, which actually might even be more stupid than soccer, and because it all comes down to the last 5 minutes of the game. And so I run a think tank. We've done a whole research segment on this, and so we've figured out how to solve the basketball problem, which is you just play a 5-minute game, and then you can go home. And everybody says, no, because then it's a game of endurance. You have to have endurance. So what we've recommended is players come out, they put out stationary bikes, they work out for an hour straight, and then we walk in, watch the 5-minute game, and then we can leave afterwards. So
you're proving my attention deficit disorder point, John. You surely are. You can only can't listen to me for more than 5 seconds. Mind you, that's true of most.
I just can't look at you for more than 5 seconds.
That's not unique to Caldara. Look, you've got one final duty, as you know, John, and you made a pretty decent effort last time. I can remember it clearly. I asked you for the prediction.
This is your what you gave America: Beatles and James Bond, and of course Doctor Who until you turned him trans and into a woman. These were the gifts. I mean, yeah, common law was nice. A common language was nice. The Magna Carta, nice. But you gave us Beatles. You gave us James Bond. You gave us classic Doctor Who before it turned all, until after 16 doctors, he turned into a chick somehow. How could you ruin Doctor Who? How could you do that to your own beautiful creation? So it's not like
John, I'm glad that you said that to me, because that gives me a great segue to put in an advertisement. And I know you Americans are addicted to advertisements. There's more advertisements on your television than there is actual content. It's not competing with UK Live Online, but the Doctor Who issue and the Doctor Who scandal I will be broadcasting live about on a channel called The Sense Sphere, from 2 o'clock UK time today, asking how can Doctor Who be saved from the BBC? We have our own socialist problems as well. John, just before I let you go, you made an honourable effort in our predictions game last time. We asked you what you thought the Colombia-Switzerland score would be, and you went 32 Colombia, 24 Switzerland. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite as high-scoring a game as that. It was an absolutely thrilling 0-0 draw. So you did overstate the amount of score. You did overstate the scoring somewhat.
How can you people watch a game
this is the sport.
Nothing
and
happened.
This is the channel, John, of second chances.
You guys
so you're gonna
like
have a
watching a
second
romantic
chance.
comedy where nobody kisses or goes to bed. There is no scoring in this silly game.
Okay, so as I say, this is the sport and this is the channel of second chances. What is your prediction of the score tonight in the World Cup semi-final between England and Argentina?
Argentina 12, England -2.
There you go. There you go. With the FIFA refereeing that we've witnessed, that might well be the outcome if Gianni Infantino gets his way. Is it possible for England to get less than nil? Less than nil, a word we have now entered into the American language.
Yes,
John,
I know.
fantastic to see you. Thank you.
Wasn't
for the
Neil?
love of-
He was a
thank you for
drummer.
your love.
Wasn't Neil Owens like a drummer for some band? Nil. That's the only time we. That's another. It's right up there with Clive as a good English name. Nil.
John, great to hear from you. I'm glad you're loving our sport. I'm glad that you're entering into the spirit of this competition with joyful
I'm a
abundance.
citizen of the world, Mark. I'm all American. We don't care about this sport.
Mr. Fish and Chips is right. John, when you're back on this side of the pond, I'll take you to a 5-day test match. 5 days long, and that always ends in a draw or a tie. Ladies and gentlemen, the great John Caldara.
How do you people come up with these things?
It's just joyous, John. Trust me. Minute to learn, lifetime to master. Great to see you, John. Let's go to a news bulletin a bit quickly. I know we're well into extra time and then penalties. Let's have the news bulletin with Edward Hughes, then bring back in my wingmen to look forward to tonight.
Hello, everyone. Edward the News Hughes here with your Wednesday bulletin. Counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation into the targeted killing of former MP Anne Widdecombe. A 28-year-old suspect remains in custody as officers probe possible links to other attacks, heightening security concerns for politicians, including Nigel Farage, who reports frequent threats. In politics, Andy Burnham is gaining momentum amid Labour tensions, with reports of cabinet manoeuvring as Keir Starmer's position faces scrutiny. MPs have approved the Hillsborough Law, hailed as a major step for justice. On the sports front, Jude Bellingham's double helped England advance in the World Cup. Elsewhere, plans for a midnight social media curfew for 16 and 17-year-olds are under discussion, while pension reforms could see millions working longer. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
As our new newsreader says, remember to like and subscribe. The subscriptions are going up. Please put the like on the video. It affects the algorithm. God only knows how, but they read it all in FIFA headquarters. And the more likes we get on this video, the more decisions will go England's way tonight. So you are basically not a patriot if you don't hit the thumbs up button on our live stream and subscribe to the channel. Angela Harbert, who's done all the work, has sent in a 20 quid super chat. There you go, Angela. I'll probably have to buy you something with that. I'm guessing there must be some kind of con or kickback from that. Thanks for the super chat. We need to keep the lights on. Why does Mark refuse to talk about how clever and good-looking Paul Cox is? Says somebody called @Paul Cox Comedy. A very good point. Extremely well made. Never heard of him, but nevertheless, Paul Cox has at least one fan. Can you guess who it is? Great show, lads. John Collingbourne, 6893. Thanks, John. Look. Extra time tonight on this show. Hope we don't get extra time tonight. Want England to do it in 90 minutes. But look, we're getting to the end of the tournament. It's been pretty difficult to work out which countries to focus on next because they've either gone home or we've already done a focus on them. There's only, 3 matches to go. That's if you count the third place playoff, which obviously England won't be in late on Saturday night. That will be Argentina versus France. We can look forward to the Sunday final, England versus Spain. But tell us in the chat, which country, which part of the world do you think we should have focused on for our country focus today, because it was a bit difficult. We've done France and Spain, we've done Argentina. Look, we probably could have found some things about England, but I'm kind of guessing that most of our audience knows quite a lot about England. So, cocks in the box, which part of the world did we decide to go for our focus today?
First of all, kudos to John, who is a massive think tanker, and absolutely enjoy his feedback. Look, we're going to go with the Falklands. Of course we're going to go with the Falklands. Argentina have made it all about the Falklands. They call it something else. We don't call it. In 1982, Maggie Thatcher, God rest her soul, made sure that this great nation retained the Falkland Islands. And in 2013, the non-partisan Falklanders voted to remain part of the British Isles at 99.8%. The 0.2% was penguins, disgruntled penguins with their fish allowance. However, sheep, that's right, the indicator of who's going to win everything. Sheep vastly outnumber humans, 40-1 in the Falklands. There are 3,500 people living in the Falklands, and there are 40 times more than that in terms of sheep. Argentina, anywhere outside the capital is just called camp, and that we're not camp in the Christo Fufas sense, just camp outside of Stanley. However, the rest is archipelago, hundreds of islands, vast landscapes and tiny farming settlements, is collectively and officially referred to by the locals as camp. The island have flying taxis. Yes, they have a flying taxi service. This isn't a drunk Uber driver who's come here from Afghanistan on a small boat. This is actual flying taxis, because there are very few roads connecting the remote settlements in the Falkland Islands. A government air service operates a small 8-seater Islander plane. In the Falklands, everything stops for smoko. Smoko, mate. The tough farming life on the islands created a tradition called smoko. As the name suggests, it originally meant farmers taking a break from their incredibly hard work for a cigarette. Anyone who's a Kevin Bloody Wilson fan, the Australian comedic singer, will know what a smoko is too. I urge you to listen to Kevin Bloody Wilson as long as you're over 18. If you're under 18, then please don't. I remember getting my dad's Kevin Bloody Wilson tape and playing it in his Mark I Ford Cortina sometime in the 80s and being absolutely astonished at the variation of swear words available on there. Dad was not best pleased, least of all because I used his cigarette lighter, which I didn't know it was, to make little marks on his new Ford Cortina car, because I thought that looked pretty and Dad would be very happy. He was not. After the 1982 conflict, the Argentine military left behind thousands of undetected landmines. Thank you very much, the RGs, mainly around the beaches near Stanley, because they didn't get much further than that, as we all know. Obviously, these were incredibly dangerous for humans and had to be fenced off entirely. But because penguins are too light to detonate the pressure-activated landmines, these minefields provided perfectly protected, predator-free sanctuaries for huge colonies of the massive great penguins that occupy the Falkland Islands. Locals legally harvest a personal quota of penguin eggs. Yes, penguin eggs. A little egg strata. This has been written by Glyn the Index, by the way. I did not write this one. This is clearly written by Glyn. I'm not having that yellow card, not at all. While you won't find penguins meat or on any menus, Falkland Islands do traditionally eat penguin eggs. Locals are allowed up to 100 penguin eggs a year for their personal consumption. I don't know who monitors that. Maybe it's the stormtroopers at the moment, Mark.
There you go. Everything you need to know about the Falklands. Just to remind you, if you put up image 3 again, some people have asked to see it, put it up on the screen, keep it on the screen, then you don't have to look at our ugly mugs. Just to remind you, tonight it is us for Argentina. Should be able to beat a 2-man team. They've made it all about the Falklands, so we're making this section all about the Falklands. John Simpson of the BBC has ridiculously said that he actually thinks the future of the Falklands will be determined by tonight's game. I mean, I'd be relaxed about that because England are going to win. We are going to overcome for Argentina. But Glyn, tell us about the glorious, the magnificent, the storied football history of the Falkland Islands. What's in your Glindex for that?
I've got 6 footy facts. Well, I might be exaggerating just a little bit when I say 6, but bear with me. Because like any civilized society, football plays a massive part in daily life in the Falklands. But because of the quirks of the island, in the Falklands Domestic Football League, every game is a home game. That's because the Falklands Island Football League, FIFL, holds all its 11-a-side games at a single venue, Stanley Stadium, which has a capacity of about 1,000 people. But given that's 33rd of the population, that's not bad going. And because the weather's so dodgy in the South Atlantic, players also rely heavily on indoor courts for 5 and 7-a-side leagues at the local leisure centre and stuff. The national football team plays in the island games. Because they aren't currently recognised by FIFA or the International Olympic Committee, they can't play in the World Cup or the Olympics. Instead, the highest international stage they compete on is the Island Games. It's a biennial tournament. It features teams like Greenland, Guernsey, and the Shetland Isles. Sorry, frog in the throat. Must have been that egg. Sorry, the yolk's on me, Paul.
Probably Matt.
Third, the local league features military against civilian showdowns. Ever since the late 19th century, football on the islands has been deeply intertwined with the military garrison there. So today, the civilian all-star team, which is called Stanley FC, or surely it should be Stanley All-Stars, but never mind. They regularly play friendlies against teams from the Navy and from the British military personnel who are there at the Mount Pleasant complex. But whilst they love football, it's not their national sport. You're probably not too surprised to find out that sheep shearing is the Falklands' official national sport. During their annual sports week, which is held at the end of the shearing season, shearers from across the camp gather to compete in high-intensity sheep and quality shearing events. And we said last week, where was Shearer when we were talking about this? So he's included this time out. Also, not quite football, but they hold the world's most southerly certified marathon. For runners, the Falklands offers the ultimate bucket list challenge for marathon runners. It's the Stanley Marathon. It's held every March. It's certified by the Association of International Marathons, and it's the most southerly marathon in the world. It must be one of the toughest too, because the runners have to face biting winds from the South Atlantic, wild weather, and it's beautiful but brutal, I think. And back to footy for the last one. They have some fantastic names for their football teams. Some of them are sponsored by local companies. They're called stuff like JK Marine Red Sox and Fortuna Mustangs. But the best ever was a tribute to a rugged former cult hero at Liverpool, defender called Martin Skirtle, if you remember him. The team on the Falklands are called Teenage Mutant Ninja Skirtles. Love it.
Oh, I don't know about
Not
that.
me.
I mean, you are reporting the facts, but I mean,
Mark, I'm just doing my job, mate. You said, get me 6 facts. I got you 6 facts.
I don't know. It's going to have to go to the HR department, that one. Sheep shearing as your national sport. Well, I mean, it's better than what the Americans have to put up with, I guess. But look, let's finish by looking at tonight's game. If we pull up, I think it's image number 1. Good headline on the back page of today's Sun. It's the Lion against the Goat. Jude Bellingham, heart of a Lion, possibly the player of the tournament so far, across the entire tournament, obviously for England, but potentially if there was a Ballon d'Or for best overall performance, I think it should go to Jude. And the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Messi. We're feeling confident, aren't we, guys? Isn't that our takeaway? We think we're the better team. We think we can do it. Image number 5 is the sort of instructions that our captain, Harry Kane, needs to receive in order to defeat the Argies. Not for the first time since 1982. We did also beat them in the group stages with a Beckham penalty. So 1982, 2002. But if we've got image number 5, if we can pull that up on the screen, please. There you go. 2nd of April to the 14th of June, 1982. That is how you beat for Argentina. We know how to do it. Go back to 1982 and show that kind of spirit. Paul, It's not going to be easy, but it's winnable, isn't it?
It's not going to be easy, and it is winnable. I think there will be lots of shenanigans. Housery with an S, I think there will be plenty of, because let's face it, Argentina aren't the best team in this tournament. They've relied fairly heavily on one or two players. One of them are just mooches around like Matt Letizia for 90 minutes and bangs in an absolute classic. However, look, we can overpower that. We can absolutely overpower that. God is on our side. The God of football is on our side. And I hope that means that England go through to the World Cup final. And do you know what? When we get there, I'm not too worried about what happens. I really am not. Just the fact we're in the World Cup final is going to be absolutely amazing and great for this country.
It's so close you can nearly touch it, you can nearly feel it. Argentina Infantino, yeah, that's true. We got it's a 3-person team. Argentina Infantino for Argentina. Glenn, what's your take? I think we can pull this off, right?
Yeah, I think so. You know, this guy Messi is not all that. He doesn't even do his 10,000 steps a day, does he? He's walking 64% of the time. He stands still 25% of the time. That's nearly as much as me. So I think we can do them, Mark. I think the team selection is going to be interesting. I've got a message for Tina, by the way. We don't need another hero, Tina. We've got Jude Bellingham. Come on, Jude.
Yeah, I agree with that. Guys, I hope I'm going to be free for the rest of the tournament, because some people are complaining about this. This is the complete Panini hardback album from 2014. Absolutely. Look, here's the England team. Look how neatly I've stuck in all the stickers. This is absolutely perfect, right? Absolutely perfect.
You were only 37 at the time.
They used to play football as well back in the day. Back in the day, these guys used to play football. That was the rather poor Italian side from 2014. This contraband, the Stormtroopers did not get their hands on it, guys. So, look, ladies and gents, enjoy tonight. One way or another, we will be back tomorrow. I found political asylum in a country called CPAC, so I will probably be broadcasting from there. You can catch me on the Sense Sphere from 2 p.m. If your interests like mine, because they go together like a hand in a glove, are football and classic vintage Doctor Who. I mean, I think most people interested in one have a great interest in the other, don't they? But Coxie, Glenn, what are your parting messages for 8 o'clock this evening?
For king and country.
England.
Come on!
England.
Come on, you lads.
We'll see you for the victory party at noon tomorrow. Later, common sensors. See you then.